those years as a superhero in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Osaka. Osaka, the second most important economic city in the Orient. Osaka's status in Kansai is roughly equivalent to Tokyo's significance to Kanto. It's just that Osaka's prosperity lacks a bit of Tokyo's extravagance and the indifference in the busyness. Although it is also brightly lit, it has a more reassuring urban landscape. It has entered the early summer season, and the streets are beginning to be lively at night. The business of street stalls has begun to flourish again. Various snack shops are working hard to attract customers on the commercial street. The Kuraman market is always lively at night. As a famous commercial street in Osaka, many guests from various countries, or travelers from other parts of the Orient to Osaka, they will choose to come to this market to shop, taste local food, and also choose some souvenirs. As a souvenir of the trip, they will take it back and give it to relatives and friends in their hometown. Is it really okay for us to walk on the street like this? Peter Parker followed Luigi and asked in a low voice. The two of them now look like free tourists, carrying a camera and a travel backpack, strolling in the Kuraman market. Don't stretch yourself too much. If a rubber band is stretched all the time, it will break one day. The same is true for people. Luigi seemed to be very interested in the small shop on the street. It was a shop selling kitchen utensils. A very clever little invention, very suitable for kitchen novices. Luigi touched his chin and muttered to himself, while picking up a set of kitchen utensils designed specifically for novices and taking a look, including small props to prevent cutting your hands when cutting vegetables, as well as a convenient egg beater and a series of other things. Not suitable for professional chefs, but suitable for family use. I think you can buy a set, and you can try to cook for Gwen next time. Luigi stuffed the set of kitchen utensils into Peter's arms, and walked into the store to continue browsing other products. Others haven't arrived in Dongyan yet. We don't need to be so anxious, you know. As scouts of the outpost, we must have good mental qualities. Peter pulled his mouth, not knowing what to say. Now Luigi and Peter have come to Osaka and Dongyan with their real identities. Because they don't know how long this matter will take to deal with, both of them need to give their families a reasonable excuse. The simplest excuse is of course to ask Harry to help lie together. Harry claimed that he needed to go to Japan to check the operating conditions of the Osborn Group in Japan. Of course, this is not entirely false. Harry has been the chairman of the Osborn Group for more than half a year. But his work focus has always been on North America, the base camp, and Europe, the second most important. There is nothing wrong with this, because these two places are the most critical. But the Asian market is also huge. Especially the new trump card project that Harry is promoting now, the Human Body's Missing Limbs Regeneration Plan. This has a very good market all over the world, and both Japan and China have extended an olive branch to the Osborn Group. Unlike the new energy of the Stark Group, energy is a double-edged sword. Some people like it and some people oppose it. Unlike the medical plan for saving lives and disabilities, everyone likes this and everyone cherishes their own lives. No one knows whether they will be disabled one day, or whether their children will have defects. Harry Osborn is now a guest of honor in almost all countries. Luigi also holds the position of special consultant of the Osborn Group. As Harry's personal staff, Luigi has always asked Harry to implement a low-key policy. The company's plan must be high-profile, but individuals must be low-key. Because he is too young, being too high-profile can easily lead to criticism. Such things that easily attract hatred should be left to Tony Stark. Harry has spent half a year to stabilize the situation in North America and Europe. Now he can finally take a breath and free up his hands to go to Asia. So coming to Japan is not only part of Luigi's plan, but also an important procedure for Harry to run the company. Luigi, who holds the position of special consultant of Osborn Group, was asked by Harry to travel with him as his advisor. Luigi told his family with this excuse, and his family had no objection. Although the SAT exam is about to start, Luigi did not plan to go to college, so the SAT is not important to him. The school is very tolerant of Harry Osborn's requirements, because he is an honorary alumnus in the future. Think about how much reputation he will bring to the school after graduation. Peter Parker's situation is even simpler. He received an early admission notice from New York University in early April. He no longer needs to take the SAT exam, relying on the double recommendation letters from Dr. Connors and Harry Osborn, as well as a research report on new polymers submitted by himself. New York University made an exception and admitted Peter Parker in advance. So Peter used the excuse of wanting to go to Dongyang to see the new technology of the Osborn Group to successfully convince his uncle and aunt. Do you think Mindy will like this thing when she is given it? Li Ji pointed to the doll in the window of a store. A strange creature that is both ugly and cute. Dongyang's modeling and imagination in this regard are particularly large. No, this thing is very weird. It's ugly and disgusting, but inexplicably a little cute. It should be like this. Peter shook his head. Ugly and cute. I don't think Mindy will like this kind of thing. Is it really okay for us to leave Harry in the company for a meeting and run out to hang out by ourselves? Peter Parker bit a piece of grilled octopus leg while shopping. I brought him enough local specialties. Li Ji raised the plastic bag in his hand, which was full of Osaka's specialty snacks. Why don't Damon, Frank and Mike come over first? Peter took a bite of the octopus leg. The taste was better than he thought, but it was a little too tough. They were borrowed by Tony, and Lan will send them over when the time comes. Li Ji explained, while feeding himself an octopus ball. This is pure Asian food, which is not available everywhere in New York, and it tastes good. It's just that I don't quite understand why we have to put on makeup when we go out. I don't feel comfortable with the way I look now. Peter wanted to scratch his face, but he stopped himself. Peter and Li Ji's appearance now is not their real appearance. Instead, they used special means to change their appearance. You'd better stay in this appearance at ease. At least this is the first spell I mastered. Give me some face. Li Ji said in a low voice. And we have to meet some local bosses. And their base is on this street. Li Ji carried plastic bags in both hands, filled with special products and snacks. Obviously, he looked like a tourist who came to shop, but he had to put on a serious face and talk about serious things. This made Peter a little amused. Okay. Where are we going now? Well, actually we're here. Li Ji pointed to a store next to them. This is a Japanese-style building that can be seen everywhere in Kiriman Market. The exterior walls are decorated with pine wood, and there are traditional Japanese sliding doors, as well as the signs that izakayas usually use to attract customers. Come on, let's go in and have something to eat first, and then go meet those local Japanese tyrants and see what our target is like now. Li Ji said as he pushed open the sliding door of the izakaya. Chapter 252 Waiting. The izakaya that Li Ji entered was the kind that can be found everywhere in Japan. It provides some alcoholic beverages and sells grilled skewers and fried food as side dishes. The grilled chicken skewers here taste good. Li Ji and Peter sat at the bar of the izakaya like real tourists. Eating the food provided by the boss, Li Ji's seemingly completely relaxed attitude made Peter next to him a little restless. Aren't we looking for someone? Peter whispered to Li Ji. But can you eat dinner first? I don't like the food provided by the company at night. Li Ji signaled Peter to eat at ease. Too much raw and cold food. Eating too much can easily cause gastroenteritis. The dinner provided by Osborn Group is not bad, but it is of high standard. However, due to the problem of Japanese eating habits, so in the entire dinner set, the proportion of raw food and cold food is too high, and the taste of Japanese food is generally light. Li Ji can understand where the deliciousness of this food is. But it does not mean that he will like this kind of food very much. Li Ji still prefers hot food, such as the grilled chicken skewers he is eating now. This is not the United States. There is no law prohibiting drinking under the age of 21. Li Ji ordered himself a glass of plum wine. This kind of wine is also light, with a light aroma and the sweet and sour taste of plums. It complements the slightly greasy fried food. Peter, on the other hand, does not drink alcohol at all, and ordered a cup of oolong tea and ate slowly. The two ate very slowly, chatting about random things while eating. It was not until there were few customers in the store that Li Ji waved to the boss who had been in charge of the barbecue. The boss thought that the two guests needed other dishes, so he came over. But Li Ji took out a small seal and gave it to the boss to take a look. The boss, who looked serious and looked like a cold uncle in Japanese animation, observed the seal for a while before nodding to Li Ji. At the same time, a guy in charge of the gun barrel was called over by the boss. The boss returned the seal to Li Ji and motioned Li Ji and the other two to follow the waiter. The two foreign tourists entered the interior of the small store as if they were looking for a bathroom under the guidance of the waiter. At the corner of the stairwell, in an inconspicuous corner, the waiter gently turned a hidden knob, and a low door hidden under the stairwell was opened. Luigi and Peter looked at each other, and stepped into the low door under the guidance of the waiter. This inconspicuous little shop is one of the bases of the Innocence Society in Osaka. Because this is the East, and Osaka is the core power of the Hand Society, the Innocence Society must be cautious in all its actions here, otherwise it is likely to encounter a catastrophe. The person in charge here is the eldest disciple of the stick old man, a middle-aged man named Panchi. He entered the sect earlier than Matt, the daredevil. Luigi knew this person before coming to the East. He always thought that the stick old man only had two disciples, Matt and David. Panchi has always been a person hiding in the dark, and is also the next generation successor of the Innocence Society. Unlike the thin figure of the stick old man, Panchi is as strong as a bull and looks indestructible. Solid muscles and neatly groomed black hair give people a feeling that this man is very reliable. Seeing the arrival of Luigi and the other two, Panchi stood up first and extended his hand to the two of them as a courtesy. After some meaningless greetings that Asians are used to, Panchi began to talk about the main topic. The teacher mentioned you to me. But you came a little earlier than I expected. Panchi's voice was quite magnetic. Come earlier, at least we can make some preparations earlier. Luigi smiled. I heard that your ninjas have found a way to sneak into the vicinity of the castle. Yes, many people died. The only good news is that at least they have not been discovered by the Hand and the Society. Panchi's mouth twitched. We also launched attacks on several other Hand and the Society's bases, making them think that this is just a normal attack by the Innocence Society on them. After all, the conflict between us has been going on for a long time, so it is not surprising to do so. After Panchi finished speaking, his face was dark. It seems that the Innocence Society did not simply lose a few people, but probably paid a heavy price. Luigi pursed his lips. There were some things he wanted to say, but in the end he suppressed them in his throat. This was his plan. When he designed it at the beginning, Luigi knew that many people would be sacrificed. Now it is difficult to say whether this plan is correct or not. Because once it is started, this plan will not simply stop. Luigi can only put those thoughts aside for the time being, and first understand what is happening now. Have you received any accurate intelligence now? Relying on the surveillance of reconnaissance satellites, only the general situation can be checked. Especially after Doom came, he added camouflage to the castle of the Hand and the Society. The function of the reconnaissance satellite was basically abolished, and it could only rely on the ninjas to conduct close reconnaissance. Now it seems that they are still in the preparation stage. There are a lot of supplies being transported in and out. Panchi said as he unfolded a map. It looks like it was hand-drawn. It should be drawn by those reconnaissance ninjas themselves after reconnaissance of the terrain. The Hand's defenses in several other areas of the East have become weak. In particular, the number of onmyoji has become scarce. Originally, there were several bases where onmyoji were supposed to be stationed, but now we haven't encountered them. This allowed us to capture several bases of the Hand. Panchi said this, while pointing at the map. Now we can be sure that most of the onmyoji should have been deployed back to this castle. If this is really the entrance to hell, I believe the Hand will definitely organize a sufficient number of onmyoji to prevent terrible accidents. Are there any other useful news? There are also Latvian soldiers. Our people have seen a lot of them. They look better equipped than the elite Latvian soldiers who defeated the Russian army on TV news. You mean, those special soldiers wearing armor and using melta-guns on TV? Peter interrupted. Yes, they look stronger. Maybe they are Doom's personal guards. They are better equipped and more well-trained. Several times my ninjas were almost discovered by them. Panchi nodded. Then it seems that it is correct. Doom is indeed here. If his guards are also here. Luigi said to Peter. So Doom hasn't entered hell yet? What is he waiting for? Peter asked with some confusion. Maybe he is waiting for the same thing as us. Luigi tried to infer. He had collected a lot of information about Doom before. Especially Dr. Charlie's on the Ark, who was his classmate and a good friend. Luigi asked Tony to ask Charlie's about Doom. From the information provided by Dr. Charlie's, Doom is a bit stubborn and self-righteous. Or, in other words, he is self-centered. From the way he ruled Latveria, he is not someone who likes to compromise with others. I think if Mephisto's equal exchange is to be exchanged, it will definitely not meet Doom's definition of equal exchange. But want a demon god to bow to humans? Well, Doom is not ancient one. It is almost impossible to make Mephisto compromise with Doom on Earth now. And Doom can use the entire Eastern European countries as his own chess pieces, so I'm afraid he can do even crazier things. Peter nodded. So what are we going to do now? Wait? Luigi said softly. Waiting for what? Waiting for the arrival of an Iron Army, so that Doom and Mephisto can listen to me obediently. Chapter 253, Problems with the Eastern Division. It was almost 1 in the morning when Luigi and Peter returned to the hotel where they were staying. This Osaka City Hotel, the most luxurious hotel in Osaka, is also owned by the Osborne Group, Toyo. Harry Osborne naturally lived here when he came to Toyo, and it must be the most luxurious suite. The super-large presidential suite consists of 12 rooms, 4 living rooms, and an independent swimming and hot spring pool. Originally, when a wealthy man like Harry Osborne traveled, the suite he lived in, except for the master bedroom where he slept. The other bedrooms must be reserved for the accompanying bodyguards and important staff. But for Harry, the value of bodyguards is not high now. Although he also spent millions of dollars every year to hire a group of capable bodyguards. But more often these bodyguards are just for show. Because now if there is an attack that Harry Osborne himself can't handle, these are just ordinary people's bodyguards, and they can't handle it even more. But as a world-class rich man, this kind of style and pomp must be talked about. It's just that Harry, Luigi and Peter have many private matters to discuss. So all these bodyguards were arranged in the outer room of the presidential suite. The other accompanying staff were also placed in other rooms. Now only Harry and his 3 people lived in the huge presidential suite. Luigi and Peter went out. Harry had just finished a meeting of the Oriental branch. Now he was sitting in the study, using a personal computer to record some important thoughts about this trip. Especially about business partners and the complex political forces in the Oriental region. Although there are secretaries to handle these things, Luigi once said that some things are better not to be completely handed over to others. Like Tony Stark, although he is a genius in invention, he lacks sufficient wisdom in managing the company. If there is no completely trustworthy Pepper, I am afraid that the Stark Group would have been in chaos long ago. Harry can't be as dissolute as Tony. He wants to be a hands-off boss, but he doesn't have a Miss Pepper. Mary Jane is just a girl with great acting talent and artistic cells, not a super business genius. When Luigi and Peter left the Rock, they found a secret place to remove their disguises. Finally, they staggered back to the hotel. I saw Harry wearing glasses sitting at his desk, typing away at the keyboard. He would stop and think after typing for a while. When did you become nearsighted? Luigi said, carrying 2 large plastic bags. Peter, who followed him, also carried 2 equally large plastic bags. Oh, you're back. These are not myopic glasses. They're just glasses to protect against blue light radiation. I've been looking at the computer screen all day, and I feel like I'm going blind. Peter saw Luigi and the other 2 coming back, and he also stopped his work and took his glasses off his nose. Then he rubbed his sore nose and said with a little complaint, "The situation in the East Asia region is a bit too complicated, and it's more difficult to solve than North America and Europe. By the way, are you doing well?" "Very well, we got a lot of useful information." Luigi and the other 2 put some of the things they bought on a suitable table. "How was your meeting today?" Luigi knew that Harry's meeting today was probably the longest since he took office. The situation in the East Asia region was complicated, and the East Asians were so-called rigorous and cautious. Or to put it in a more harsh way, the mutual buck passing and unwillingness to take responsibility between departments is very time-consuming. East Asian countries have the same culture, and even this bad habit of buck passing is quite unified. It's very bad. Several departments are buck passing each other, and no one wants to take on important tasks. I now understand why my father kept forcing personnel changes in Donggyang when he was in office. Harry leaned on the leather seat and said a little limply. Now his image is very inappropriate and completely inconsistent with the identity of a world-class rich man. He looks like a child without family education. In short, it is an image that is no longer shown to the public. Our medical plan is not particularly smooth in Donggyang. Many people want to participate, and we need to carefully choose business partners. Harry sighed. And the prototype of class solidification has begun to appear between departments in just over half a year. Dongyang's workplace culture is a bit scary. Some people don't want to move their positions, so they shirk responsibility. The company's important strategy has been delayed. Harry felt very unhappy when he said this. Today's meeting lasted 11 hours, but this group of people didn't even come up with any effective solutions. Is the meeting record here? Let me see. Li Ji took a copy of the meeting record handed over by Harry. This was an excerpt of the important topics of the meeting by his secretaries. Li Ji glanced at the development strategy and plan of the Osborne Group in Japan. There were also the contents of the meeting that were top secret in business. If this completed meeting record was given to a business spy who specialized in selling information, it would be worth at least $1 million. Do you need some Japanese specialty snacks? While Li Ji was reading the meeting record, Peter took out a few Japanese lacquerware from Li Ji's shopping bag. The beautiful lacquerware contains some snacks that Li Ji brought back from the road. Oh, I almost forgot. This is for you. Peter's reminder reminded Li Ji that he had brought takeout for Harry. Thank you. I'm starving. Harry suddenly realized that it was already past 1 in the morning. He had not eaten for more than 7 hours since the 6 o'clock dinner. Work made him forget about hunger, but once he got out of the work state, the strong feeling of hunger made his stomach feel a burning pain. Did you eat dinner? Peter helped to take out a lot of food that he bought and opened it in front of Harry's desk. The food is terrible. There are too many cold dishes and too much seafood. And most of them are raw. I don't like to eat things with strong fishy smell, especially when they are raw. Harry said expressionlessly. He really had a terrible dinner today. Although the Japanese side took great pains to arrange it and provided the highest standard of Japanese food reception, it seemed that the flattery was not done well. Although Harry was very dissatisfied, he still didn't express it on the spot. After all, food is a small matter. The meeting that was to be held in the evening was a big deal, but he didn't expect that the meeting in the evening would not go smoothly. If he had known that he had spent 7 hours meaninglessly in quarrels and shirking responsibilities, Harry felt that it would be better for him to go to the market in Osaka with Li Ji in the evening and be a tourist. The food tastes okay, but it's a little cold. Harry tasted a few bites of the Japanese special snacks brought back by Li Ji and said with some complaints. He was not in a good mood tonight. But thinking about Harry's experience tonight, Li Ji and Peter could understand Harry's dissatisfaction. Li Ji said to Harry while looking at the minutes of the meeting, "Call the room service and ask them to send some ingredients up. There's a kitchen in the room anyway. Just make you a simple midnight snack." As the big boss behind the hotel, Harry Osborne personally called to make this request, and the manager personally pushed the food cart up. However, he still took the initiative to bring up some other prepared food, which made him deliver the ingredients 10 minutes late. When seeing Harry shook his head slightly dissatisfied, the manager in his 40s shuddered and was frightened. Then he apologized with a Japanese specialty to Jiza. In the end, Peter Parker, who couldn't stand him, threw him out of the door. Do Japanese people like to make decisions for others so much? Why can't they listen to me and do whatever I tell them to do? I'm their boss. Harry threw the tuna sushi brought by the manager directly into the trash can. Harry doesn't like cold food, let alone raw food. People who act on their own are really annoying. Li Ji glanced at Harry and didn't comment, and Peter just shrugged. This manager will probably be fired tomorrow. Is this their national character? Maybe so. Li Ji said with some indifference. You two can help me wash the vegetables. I'll cut them. The three of them were busy in the presidential suite. Is this Yashida very interested in the medical plan of the Osborne Group? Want to cooperate with you? Li Ji boiled the pot with white wine. At the same time, he looked at the minutes of the meeting and asked. Yes, their leader, a lady named Mariko, wants to meet with me for an appointment. We agreed on a time. Harry was helping to cut garlic. Do you know something, Jason? Peter was tearing basil leaves with his hands under Li Ji's guidance. At the same time, he asked for Harry. Did your Dongyan branch tell you, Harry? Li Ji said with a frown. Tell me what? Harry said with some confusion. Yashida is the local tyrant of the Kanto region in Japan. They are related to many terrorist incidents in Japan, as well as political assassinations and other things. Although the Yashida group is very low-key, their actions never go beyond the Japanese region, so we have never heard of them in North America. Li Ji frowned and explained to Harry. But the Osborne Group's branch in Japan cannot possibly know nothing about the Yashida Group. It is not a good idea to get entangled with the Yashida Group in Japan. What are the people in the Japanese branch doing? The information about Yashida was of course obtained from the Innocence Society. After all, the origin of the Innocence Society is Japan. Although it was attacked by the Handan Society, it still has its own intelligence network. Damn, these old guys. None of them told me these things. Harry used some force on his hands, causing the sturdy bamboo cutting board to be directly cut by him. Don't be angry. Japan is a place that values seniority. And there are also inexplicable plots of the lower class overthrowing the upper class. Maybe these people have lost their minds. If it doesn't work, let's make a big change. Didn't you just say that? When Mr. Norman was alive, he frequently transferred people from Japan. Lee Ji said, and began to prepare to cook. Sometimes, Japanese people stay in a position for a long time, and they mistakenly think that this position is theirs. Kill a group of them, scare a group of them. These inexplicable guys. Lee Ji shook his head, threw the minutes aside, and began to concentrate on cooking. The midnight snack doesn't need to be very rich, just a simple tomato shrimp pasta. Although Lee Ji and Peter had dinner at the Kuriman market before, they didn't mind having a midnight snack at this time. The topic at the table has changed from the Japanese branch of the Osborn Group to the main purpose of this trip to Japan. So, what is Tony Stark preparing? When Peter was listening to Lee Ji and Pan Shi talking before, he was a little curious about what Lee Ji was waiting for. However, because the Rock was present, Lee Ji did not elaborate. Harry also came over with some curiosity, wanting to listen. A super large-scale weapon of mass destruction, and an army. After all, the opponent is Doom and the demons of hell, and we need strong reinforcements. Peter and Harry were the only two people at the scene, so Lee Ji had no scruples and said these words directly. Anyway, Tony Stark will come to Osaka in a few days, and everyone will know what it is by then. An army? Tony Stark is not Doom, how can he train an army? Harry asked with some curiosity. Of course it can't be a real person, I said it's an Iron Army. Lee Ji answered after eating a mouthful of pasta. You mean Tony Stark's iron armor? Harry was a little surprised, and Peter forgot to suck the noodles in his mouth. Yes, all of them are controlled by special AI, and of course people are needed to assist. This is also the reason why Damon, Mike and Frank didn't come. Lee Ji said it directly. How many iron armors does Tony Stark plan to make? Peter asked with some curiosity. He said there will be at least 100 armors with powerful attack power. Lee Ji revealed an astonishing number. Wow. I think Pepper will be angry, and Tony Stark's personal property must have shrunk a lot. Harry was a little gloating. This number of armors can start a war. Peter finally sucked all the noodles he had eaten into his mouth. Don't forget, buddy, what we are doing now is no different from starting a war. It's just that our main target may not be humans. Lee Ji nodded. The three of them ate and chatted for quite a while. When they finished eating and packed up to go to bed, it was almost 3 in the morning. Tony Stark, who was far away in New York, finally walked out of his laboratory and breathed a sigh of relief. Okay Jarvis, do the final debugging. We should go out. Where are you going, sir? Osaka. Chapter 254, Prepared. At midnight, in a dojo outside Osaka City, this is an underground industry of the Pure Society. On the surface, it looks like a normal Shinto dojo. In fact, the wizards inside are all members of the Pure Society. Lee Ji and the other two have been in Japan for 2 or 3 days, and today Tony Stark is finally coming to Osaka. Lee Ji wants to find a suitable place for Tony to appear, because this time he is not coming alone, but with a lot of things. So he needs a large enough venue and a place where no one pays attention. The Pure Society's dojo is a good choice. There's a large enough open space in the dojo, and it is far away from the city, so it will not attract other people's attention. In addition, there are Pure Society ninjas around to form a realm, so there is no need to worry about other people's prying. Lee Ji, Harry and Peter are waiting for Tony Stark's arrival in the dojo. Just as the scheduled time arrived, a golden red space door broke through the void and appeared in front of everyone. The first to come out were the mages of Kamartaki. Led by Lan, a total of 12 mages followed Lan to participate in Lee Ji's action. These are basically all assigned by the Ancient One. In Kamartaki, apart from the Supreme Mage, the most important are the Temple Mages who manage the 3 major temples. Below the Temple Mages are the Guardian Mages, who usually follow the Temple Mages to guard the 3 major temples together. Mages in charge of the temples are generally the best mages in Kamartaki. Although there are not many of them, they are powerful. The largest number of mages are the apprentices who are still practicing enigmatic. Of course, there are also those mages who are responsible for being teachers in enigmatic after the guardian mages take a break. Mages in charge of teaching generally have rich combat experience, and guarding the temple is not as easy a job as it seems. There is another group of ordinary mages who have already become apprentices, but their strength is not enough to be guardian mages. This group of people is the backbone of enigmatic. Because apart from the apprentices, they are the largest group. There are probably more than 1,000 mages practicing in enigmatic. But there are only 3 who can serve as temple mages, and each temple is also equipped with 12 guardian mages. It can be said that they are the real high-end combat power of enigmatic besides the Ancient One mage. These people cannot be transferred to Li Ji, as they have more important responsibilities. The mages that can be assigned to Li Ji are the Mage Lan, who has become more familiar to him. The remaining 3 guardian mages who have retired to become teachers, and the best of the other 8 ordinary mages. Li Ji has heard of Lan's strength, which is very close to that of a temple mage. It is much stronger than ordinary guardian mages. Li Ji believes this. He still remembers her terrifying ability to twist space when he first met Lan. Although she is taciturn and rarely takes action. But once she takes action, even Shenbian Shuang, who is also a ghost rider, has little ability to fight back. Another mage that Li Ji is very familiar with, Wang, cannot participate in this operation. Because of his special identity, he is the original follower of the Ancient One mage. And he is also the librarian of enigmatic. His strength may not be that kind of outrageously strong mage. However, his name is circulated among the demons because he has always been with the Ancient One. So he cannot directly participate in this operation. If Wang directly participates, it will become a handle that was personally instructed by Guyi and caught. After all, there is still an agreement between Guyi and the demon, although this agreement is sometimes not even as good as straw paper. Although Guyi himself said that he is not good at politics, he is also very clear that sometimes he can play some edge balls as long as he does not cross the line. The actions of this group of wizards, if they are really questioned, can be said to be free actions. Wang is Guyi's personal servant, and obviously cannot use this excuse to get away with it. When all the wizards came out, following behind them were Iron Fist and Blade. This surprised Li Ji. Although I invited you to help, I didn't expect you to really come back. Li Ji said with some surprise. Because Iron Fist's dragon power has a suppressive effect on evil creatures. Li Ji also tried to invite him to help, but then thought that he is now a member of the Avengers. I am afraid he can't act alone, so Li Ji did not hold out hope. And now Iron Fist not only came, but also called his friend Luke Cage to come together. According to the rules of the Avengers, I really couldn't come. Iron Fist nodded. But I think you should know that Nick Fury has been arrested by the Washington authorities. But when the Washington correspondent arrived in New York to arrest Nick Fury, there was a little trouble. A little trouble. This is the latest news from SHIELD. Li Ji doesn't know. Well, it's actually a big trouble. SHIELD almost rioted. In short, it's hard to describe. Iron Fist shook his head. SHIELD is in a mess now, and Hill is probably too busy to sleep. For some special reasons, the captain gave all the Avengers a holiday, and he hopes that we better leave New York and stay away from the center of the storm. Li Ji shook his head without comment. It seems that SHIELD is really in trouble now. So Cage and I came to Japan to avoid a storm. Now Captain Rogers is trying hard to control the situation in New York. And he hopes to talk to you when he is free. Okay, wait until this matter is dealt with. I can meet with the captain when I return to New York to see what he wants. Li Ji agreed. After the 2 Iron Fists, the helpers from the X-Men appeared. Li Ji's words with Professor X, Charles Xavier, a long time ago still touched him. If mutants want to gain more recognition, they still need to do something more proactive. And Charles also showed goodwill to Li Ji in this way. Although Nightwalker Li Ji's strength does not seem to be particularly outstanding now, the breadth and complexity of the personal connections behind Li Ji are astonishing. He can connect various seemingly unrelated forces and work together. This is also a very outstanding talent in itself. The 4 people from the X-Men are Wolverine, Ganglix, Cyclops and Beast Hank. Li Ji also stepped forward to greet them one by one. In another corner of the dojo, Panchi, who was in charge of the organization, was somewhat stunned by the helpers invited by Li Ji. until someone he was familiar with also appeared. Matt, is Nightwalker's friend so wide? Panchi asked his junior brother who had just arrived here, Lawyer Ma, the legal advisor of Marvel. I think so. He has good relations with many powerful forces. That's why he can summon so many powerful helpers at this moment. Matt said affirmatively. No wonder the teacher needs us to help Nightwalker at all costs. Panchi sighed. This is indeed a good opportunity to completely defeat and recapture the Hand in Society. Yes, although it's a bit discouraging. But to be honest, if we only rely on the power of our pure society, it is basically impossible to completely defeat the Hand in Society in the East. Matt said the same. While the two brothers were chatting, Lan and the other 11 mages began to work together to arrange the magic array. The golden Sanskrit and the mysterious array suddenly appeared from the air, looking mysterious and noble. The space gate that could only accommodate one person began to expand. It expanded until the diameter was about 20 meters, and then it slowly stabilized. Li Ji knew that the strongest reinforcements he was waiting for were coming. The first to fly out of the space gate was the golden red metal armor that many people were familiar with. This person was Iron Man Tony Stark. After Iron Man appeared, 3 huge gray armors appeared. They were more than 3 meters tall, and full of mechanical and powerful feeling. Each of the 3 huge armors held a huge container-like object, and flew out slowly and steadily from the space gate. It looks like you are well prepared. Li Ji smiled at Tony Stark, who flew to his side. Yes, there is a saying, what is it? Don't fight a battle you are not sure of. I like this concept very much. Tony lifted the steel mask and said. But it looks like you have found a lot of helpers. He looked around. Well, because I also like a saying, called, everything is better to have double insurance. Li Ji patted Tony's steel armor. The 3 huge armors have placed the container-like objects on the open ground. Li Ji is very familiar with the drivers of these 3 armors, Frank, Damon and Mike. They participated in Tony Stark's test plan together. Because this plan requires these battle-hardened veterans, although Tony also has a good friend in the military who can also do it. But it was obvious that Li Ji would not agree to let the military participate in his plan, so Tony did not even mention it. Come and take a look. Although time is tight and the work is a bit rough. I haven't had time to add some beautiful colors, but I think they are enough. Tony used the control device on his armor to open the door of the container-like object. Rows of silver gray, metallic luster steel armors were standing steadily in it. This is an army, an iron army that is enough to turn hell upside down. Chapter 255. The attack begins. In the dojo of the Pure Innocence Society, a simple battle plan meeting was being held. Because Li Ji did not intend to give the Hand and the Society a chance to discover him and his men. Tonight, the reinforcements he requested were all in place. So we should start preparing for the war. After all, the number of people has increased now. If we are not careful, we will be discovered by the Hand and the Society's tight intelligence network in Japan. After the basic strategy was formulated, everyone entered the final adjustment state. Have all the equipment been debugged? Li Ji asked Tony Stark. Because the Iron Legion that Tony brought this time is the key, and can be said to be the main attacker. Especially if we have to deal with doom and various things in hell. No problem. Tony was doing the final check in the cabinet where the Iron Legion was placed to confirm that all the equipment was safe and correct. 125 iron armors. Among them, there are 35 heavy firepower Hell Destroyers. There are also 40 breakthroughs. Plus 50 Iron Guardians. Tony said to Li Ji while debugging. What do these code names mean? Hell Destroyer, a heavy firepower enhanced version of Iron Man armor. It is larger than ordinary Iron Man armor, and moves a little slower, but it is fierce and powerful. I made a new electromagnetic weapon, which is improved based on the Gauss rifle you used before. Tony is indeed a genius in weapons. Li Ji just gave Tony a Gauss rifle he made before. He was going to let him replace some traditional gunpowder weapons with Gauss weapons. Unexpectedly, he did not simply imitate, but made a higher level of transformation on Gauss weapons. Iron Guardian is a standard Iron Man armor. There is nothing special about it, and nothing special about it. It is mediocre, but very practical. Tony pointed to an Iron Man armor that looks similar to his appearance. Breaker, it is smaller in size. Tony pointed to a more slender-looking armor in the distance and introduced it. The armor is relatively weak, but the movement speed is the fastest. It is faster than the armor I wear. It can be said that it has given up its defense and converted it into movement speed and attack power. It is also the only armor among these armors that is equipped with close combat weapons. Li Ji noticed that there were objects that looked like cold weapons mounted on both sides of the thighs of this armor. High-frequency molecular knives, it seems that you have noticed it. I know you also use knives, and I wanted to get you one. But time is a bit rushed. The vibration of the high-frequency molecular knife is not suitable for human use. It will resonate your body into a pile of meat paste, and you will be hurt just by holding it. Tony checked the last item and looked at Li Ji and said, "Why are there no Mark series names that you usually use?" "Because these are not considered Mark series, they are all variants. They are not designed to be worn, which makes the assembly and design work not too complicated." Tony pointed out the difference between these Iron Legion and his iron armor. "So they are completely robots." Li Ji roughly understood. "Yes, they are not wearable and cannot be considered Mark series iron armor." Tony nodded. "These robots are designed to be simpler and more violent." Tony's mouth curled up, his expression was a little unnatural. This seemed to be a slap in the face for a former arms dealer who had said before that he would completely give up designing special killing tools. But now Tony could only silently bear it even if he was slapped in the face, because he would have to clean up the troubles he caused. These things are not used to kill people. Maybe they will be more useful for killing demons later. Li Ji patted Tony on the back and gave him a reasonable reason. "Oh, then this news is not bad." Tony tilted his head and made a relaxed expression. Frank and the other two had already come out of 3 huge steel armors. The large armor they just wore was very similar to the anti-Hulk armor that Li Ji saw in the movie in his previous life. They all consisted of an oversized armor with a small armor inside. Frank and the other two left a large transport armor, but they were still wearing the armor specially made for them by Tony. Li Ji probably knew what the 3 sets of armor were. After all, Tony had roughly told them before asking them to help Tony. The control of the Iron Legion will be completed by the artificial intelligence Jarvis, working with these 3 people. Although Jarvis is very smart, he is still an artificial intelligence after all. The battlefield situation changes rapidly, and people still need to make decisions on the spot, so as not to miss opportunities. That's why Tony let Frank and the other two rely on their armor to control these Iron Legions. You know, Frank and Mike were both excellent battlefield commanders before. Their command skills are quite sophisticated, and they may not be able to play their true strengths alone. But when they have a group of excellent soldiers under them, it's a different story. Although Damon has never been on the battlefield, he has also commanded many operations in his police career. In terms of command level, he is not as good as Frank and Mike. But he is better than the others present. The reason why Tony chose these 3 people is mainly because he has begun to trust Li Ji now. Because he trusts Li Ji's recommendation, he uses these 3 people. But even so, it doesn't mean that Tony will completely give up power to the 3 people. After all, this is a powerful Iron Army, which is enough to turn a medium-sized country with not very strong military power upside down. So the command of the 3 men to the Iron Army was authorized by Jarvis. So Jarvis is not only the helper of the 3 men, but also has a certain safety switch nature. "How do you feel, everyone?" Li Ji asked Frank and the other two with a smile. "Wearing armor requires wearing tight combat clothes, and it feels like being stripped naked." Damon's voice was a little helpless. "I prefer our own individual power armor. Using this armor to command those Iron Men to fight is a bit like watching you play games on the computer." Frank's voice came out through the sound device on the armor, and his voice changed a little. "It's okay, I can accept any task." Mike is still the same character as always. For a person whose life is so boring that only chess is the only entertainment, don't expect him to say too much. "I just asked the Rock, the entrance to hell we are going to, there's a castle on it." Beast Tank, it seems that he just went to talk to the Rock. "Yes, the Hand and Whale. I'm afraid Doom's people are there too." Li Ji nodded. "Are we going to attack by force?" Hank asked with a frown. This made his beast-like face with blue hair look a little funny. "We are so powerful that we may have to attack violently." Li Ji motioned Hank to take a look at the Iron Legion that Tony brought. "Well, if we really have to go to hell, if we have time, I would like to do some research." Hank seemed to have brought some small packages for scientific research. It seems that this scientist can't finish his research spirit anywhere. "Well, if everything goes well and there is time after the mission is completed." Li Ji rubbed his brows. "Your things look quite complete, And there is also a particle collector. Are you going to analyze the properties of hell? Tony came over and took a look at Tank's equipment. If there's a chance, after all, this is going to hell. As a scientist, this is a rare opportunity. Can I use your equipment later? I actually forgot to bring it. Sure, that's not a problem. By the way, Nightwalker, you said we need a guide to go to hell. Now we are here. Where is the guide? Tony ended the conversation with Hank and turned to ask a more important question. Ghost Rider has arrived a long time ago, but I didn't let him come here. I even said that he needs to be far away from the Hand and Society, because the Hand and Society have special methods to control Ghost Rider. Luigi talked about Johnny's current whereabouts. So we can't let him take the risk of being discovered by the Hand and Society. We need to clear the surrounding Hand and Society forces first. Oh. Tony pouted and said a little bit meanly. It looks like Ghost Rider is a little fragile. Okay, whether he is fragile or not. If your equipment is adjusted, then we should start preparing for a strong attack now. Luigi looked around at the people around him, and no one objected. So he said to the Rock, "Let the lurking ninjas send a signal." The Rock nodded, and communicated with the lurking ninjas through the special means of the Pure Innocence Society. The ninjas who received the news all took out a piece of gravel with them. This was a stone with a spell mark. They crushed the stone, and the mages from Enigmatic could accurately locate their current location. "We have already located them," Lamb said to Luigi after communicating with other mages. "Then let's get started." Luigi nodded. Then, 12 space gates opened in the hands of the mages. From here, they led directly to the core area of the Shuhu Castle. Before Jinbing and Doom realized it, the attack organized by Luigi was about to begin. Chapter 256, King and Doom. 2K Castle, inside the castle tower. Doom was sitting in front of the sliding door of the castle tower, from where he could clearly see the cold moonlight at night. Between the mountains in the distance, dark shadows loomed. The moonlight tonight was not particularly bright, which made it difficult for the naked eye to see the specific images of those mountains. However, the rolling mountains and the quietness brought by the night made these mountains, which were formed after millions of years of crustal movement, look like ancient giant beasts. They were quietly dormant under the cold moonlight. No one came to disturb their silence. In the distance, there were lights illuminating the horizon. Doom knew that it was the direction of Osaka. Even though there were dozens of kilometers between them and the mountains, the light pollution of the big city at night still illuminated the night sky and the horizon. The sky curtain that should have been as dark as ink, or as quiet as navy blue silk, in its originally harmonious natural composition, inexplicably added a discordant element, which was a bit abrupt. It was like a cancerous cell in a healthy human body. The spots of light on the horizon ruined Doom's appreciation of the night. Dr. Doom, I've prepared steak and midnight snacks. When Doom returned to the castle tower, Jinbing, led by Doom's personal guards, came to this room. "We have completed all the preparations. I think we should start planning." Doom's personal guards, after putting down the food brought by Jinbing, bowed slightly and left. Jinbing smiled and gestured, and then spoke after the personal guard left. "I browsed the information you provided me. There are not many records about the City of the Dead in the Hand and the Council. It can be said that there are very few. If I hadn't seen the demon Mephisto before, I'm afraid I wouldn't know much about the City of the Dead." Doom's eyes shone through the iron mask, looking quite majestic. "I'm curious, how do you know so much about the City of the Dead? I thought you got the information from the Hand, but now I find that I'm wrong. And I don't think Mephisto will find you, even though he's a demon. But he won't make deals with anyone." Doom's words were full of doubts, and some contempt for Kingpin. After all, Doom didn't think Kingpin could be compared with himself. Mephisto might find Doom, but he probably wouldn't find Kingpin, because Kingpin couldn't possibly fulfill the conditions Mephisto proposed. Doom's suspicion was dangerous, because if he couldn't quell his suspicion, he would nip all possible dangers in the bud. Kingpin knew Doom's character very well, so at this time, the necessary truth could quell Doom's speculation about himself. The burly Kingpin had a smile on his face, and he didn't feel dissatisfied or overly excited because of Doom's pressure on him. He still spoke at a leisurely pace. "Yes, Mephisto has never found me. And the records of the City of the Dead in the Hand are pitiful. I really can't get much useful information from it, Doctor. But maybe Mephisto didn't tell you the truth, Dr. Doom." Kingpin found a place to sit down and began to talk to Doom slowly. "Mephisto is indeed the Lord of Hell, But he is not the only lord. Doom didn't show any surprise when he heard Kingpin's words, perhaps because as a superior, he had long been able to keep his emotions under control. So, I met another Lord of Hell. Kingpin tried to make his tone very peaceful. A former angel. Former angel. Doom became interested. As a person who will definitely go to hell after death, do you really expect there to be a heaven in this world? Doom was implying that Kingpin and his actions were not in line with the doctrine of the Father's followers, and they would definitely not be able to ascend to heaven after death. Yes, a former angel. His name is Lucifer. I believe you have heard of his name. Kingpin said a name from a myth. Although it was a bit absurd, Doom did not question him on this matter. Because many truly absurd things in this world are often the truth of the whole world. So this angel who fell into hell found you? Doom said with some interest. Yes, for some reasons. There's a war going on in hell. All the lords are collecting powerful souls, using every possible means. Kingpin nodded. If Li Ji were here, he might find something. Don't forget that the demon that Norman Osborn served also asked Norman to collect souls. It's just that the demon's approach was too radical. He intervened in the earth himself, and was killed by Ancient One, and his body was thrown into the wasteland of the universe. These things were learned by Li Ji and the mages of Kamartaki after a period of communication. So Lucifer also wants you to help him collect strong souls and start a war in hell. Not entirely. As a former angel, his ambition is even greater. Kingpin did not fully explain what Lucifer's ambition was. He just pursed his lips and did not continue the topic. Of course, he put forward conditions to me. The bargaining chip is the souls of my wife and children. Kingpin's face was a little distorted when he said this. He thought I would compromise, but he was wrong. Never, ever, never use my wife and children as bargaining chips against me. Kingpin's anger did not seem to be pretended. So you rejected him. Don't you want to revive your wife and children? Doom looked into Kingpin's eyes and said. Not in this way. Just like you, Doctor, do you really just want to simply revive your mother? Kingpin asked somewhat rhetorically. I got a lot of information from Lucifer, including the entrance to hell, which he also told me. That's why we have our current cooperation, Doctor. There are big secrets hidden in hell. Doctor, don't you want to explore those secrets? I've mentioned it to you once. Do you just want to resurrect your mother? Kingpin asked again. Yes, I just want to resurrect my mother. Doom said resolutely. Kingpin, this is the biggest difference between you and me. I know what I can control. Please remember that our cooperation is only to go to the city of the dead. Doom's tone meant that this conversation could only end here. Okay, Doctor. Do you want to eat something first? Kingpin wisely changed the subject. I'm not hungry. Let's do the last check for the trip to hell. We should go to hell. That is our destination sooner or later. Doom strode away from the castle tower. The light of the waning moon in the sky became more and more hazy. When a cloud floated by casually, it accidentally covered the brightest light in the sky. 12 golden red space gates suddenly appeared in different locations of the Shuhuhu castle. Gray iron-colored steel legions filed out and rushed towards the Shuhuhu castle. Before the Shuhuhu ninjas noticed, the battle had already begun. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Attackers and Meeting. The first to roar was the heavy-duty steel mecha named Hell Destroyer by Tony Stark. Jarvis and Frank were in charge of the operation. According to the locations and coordinates provided by the Rock, as well as some places that might have strong firepower resistance discovered by the ninjas of the Innocent Society in recent days, the Hell Destroyer's artillery began to focus on these places. Each powerful Hell Destroyer mecha had a special magazine compartment on its back. It was loaded with special individual missiles produced by Stark Industries. It was accurate enough and powerful. And it was also quite small. Each missile was only about the size of a pin. However, the power it exploded was not proportional to its body. 35 Hell Destroyer mechas, under Frank's control, each fired at least 10 crossbow-style individual missiles. The small size means that these mechas can hold more ammunition. At the same time, because there is no need to consider the wearing problem, Tony became simpler when designing these mechas. It also made the space inside the mechas for loading ammunition larger. The sound of the crossbow missile launch is very small, only a slight whooshing sound. It is just like the sound made by some toy rockets. Jarvis, help me lock the target. Frank can't lock all the targets faced by the 35 mechas by himself. These complex computing projects must be controlled by Jarvis, which is the benefit of having a super AI. Okay, Sir Frank can easily control the 35 mechas under his jurisdiction through the special control system on his own armor. At the same time, using the common radar scanning device on all mechas can share vision and target signals. The micro-missiles have begun to call the firepower points detected before all the personnel in the castle have discovered the problem. The violent explosion is like a blooming firework in the dark night. At the same time, Frank commanded the mecha to occupy a more advantageous position, using the powerful firepower of the Hell Destroyer to prepare to give the hand and the ninja a painful blow. You know, this kind of mecha is equipped with 4 Gauss electromagnetic weapons. And because it is used by mechas, there is no need to consider the human body, so Tony Stark doesn't need to worry too much about human engineering issues. Blue-white arcs jumped in the 4 Gauss gun muzzles of the mecha, and the slight hissing sound proved that all the muzzles had begun to accumulate energy and were ready to fire fiercely at any time. Following closely behind was the Iron Guardian, which had no particularly good parts, but also no particularly bad parts. It was equipped with 2 Gauss weapons and far fewer missiles than the Hell Destroyer. However, because it did not consume as much energy as the Destroyer and the Breaker, the Iron Guardian had energy cannons very similar to the Mark series. There were 12 space gates, and different groups of people appeared from different space gates according to the predetermined goals. The mechas controlled by Mike rushed out of the space gate closest to the castle, those breakers with the fastest speed and the most fierce breakthroughs. Raise the mirror space. Liji appeared in the direction with the mages. The huge destruction and explosion here, Liji did not want to be captured by the Japanese government. Although there were mages from Kamartaki, Liji believed that there would be no problem for him and others to escape. But it would be troublesome if they were entangled by the Japanese government. Mageland nodded, and she and the other 11 mages began to cast spells together. The mirror wall began to be raised by the mages. With a mirror wall, the inside and outside of the Castle of the Hand and the Society are 2 completely unrelated worlds. The world inside the mirror does not destroy the dimension of the real world. The mecha operated by Frank stunned the ninjas of the Hand and the Society at the first time. Because the attack came very suddenly, there was no sign. But Doom's guards came more elite than the ninjas of the Hand and the Society, and they reacted when the attack just started. Now the number of Doom's guards is not just the 8 most elite guards he brought with him when he first arrived in Osaka. Instead, there are full 80, equally elite guards. Their weapons can easily tear apart even demons. These soldiers of Doom are cold and ruthless, do not know what fear is, and only obey Doom's command. It is a very terrifying force. Buzz, buzz, the soldiers' melta-guns are ready. The exodynamic skeleton armor is also ready. 27 of Doom's guards formed a relatively large 3-3 formation and rushed out of the castle. They were ready to start their counterattack. What's going on? Doom got angry for the first time. In the castle tower, he grabbed Kingpin's collar angrily. If Kingpin didn't have a reasonable explanation, he wouldn't mind cutting Kingpin's head off right now. We were attacked. Kingpin was tall and much taller than Doom, but he didn't use brute force to break free of Doom's hands. He kept being grabbed and said, "The Hand and the Society have enemies, the Innocent Society, you know. Maybe they are here to make trouble. The Innocent Society can't have these mechas." Doom glanced at the battlefield outside the castle tower. Now the ninjas of the Hand and the Society, as well as some of Kingpin's men, led by Doom's guards, began to fight back. At least the situation was not as passive as it was at the beginning. Doom's eyes captured the battlefield. The golden red space door in the distance had just closed, but he saw it. It looks like it's not just a simple pure one. I heard from the monks in the Qinghai Tibet Plateau of China that legend. The Guardian of the Earth, the Supreme Mage. Doom let go of Kingpin's collar. It looks like it's true. They probably know that this is the entrance to hell, and these mages won't let it go. If the Supreme Mage comes, I'm afraid I can't stop him unless I blow up the earth. Doom said with some gritted teeth. Of course, he didn't know that Ancient One had signed an agreement with various demons. After all, he only came into contact with monks from China when he was wandering in Eastern Europe and Asia after graduating from college. They were not from the same lineage as the Supreme Mage. Although they were both practitioners, their understanding of the Supreme Mage was only word of mouth. Just like Iron Fist, although Kunlun had the legend of the Supreme Mage, Iron Fist had not seen the mage much. Then Doom's eyes scanned the battlefield, and he found a golden red figure flying fast at a low altitude. That's right. Now in the whole world, who else has the ability and strength to create such a group of steel mechas, besides him? Tony Stark. It seems that he is here to do bad things. Doom took it for granted that, because he had not discovered Li Ji was now guarding a group of wizards to prevent their magic from being interrupted. But even if he discovered Li Ji, judging from Doom's character, he would probably treat Li Ji as a small person. Just when Doom discovered Tony Stark, Tony also discovered Doom. Because the green robe and gray armor were too eye-catching. Tony wanted to get closer to the castle tower where Doom was, but was blocked by the beam fired by the hot melt gun. These guns are not a joke. Tony has seen that several of the mechas he made have been hit by the beam. The parts that were hit were instantly melted. Tony didn't want to use his life to check the power of this hot melt gun, so he kept circling in the air to avoid it. Doom. Tony used the sound device in the armor to turn up the volume. We need to talk. Do you know what you are doing? Is this how you talk to people? With an army? Doom said with some sneer. Because the person I am talking to is a Latvian dictator, the hegemon of the Eastern European countries. Tony dodged two beams shot at him. I heard about you from your old classmate Charlie's. I think it's best to meet you like this. At least you will be willing to listen to me. The dense melted gun beams made Tony Stark's flight look a little clumsy. He had to avoid those deadly beams all the time. As for why he didn't attack Doom directly, first of all, Tony didn't think that attacking Doom now would work. The armor on Doom's body is not a decoration. From the fact that he can equip his soldiers with such advanced single-soldier power armor, we can see that. The armor on Doom's body is probably more advanced, and it is estimated that it will not be similar to his own Mark series. Another point is that if he opens fire and attacks Doom now, then he and Doom will really tear each other apart and fight to the death. As for killing some of his soldiers, when has the Latvian dictator ever cared about such a thing? In fact, there is another point hidden deeper in Tony Stark's heart. Tony now has a deep distrust of governments. He is afraid that if he really kills Doom now, what if Doom dies? Latvia will probably collapse immediately. For a country built by strongman politics, as long as the leader is gone, the country will be gone too. Where will the Latvian arc end up? Tony thinks it's scary. If possible, the best way is to negotiate with Doom. And this will also be more powerful for Li Ji's subsequent plans. While Tony and Doom were talking in the sky, Li Ji had already said to Frank and others through the communicator. Find a way to make a passage. We have to break through the defense of the castle gate. The entrance to hell must be inside. After repeated verification by the Innocent Society ninjas, the underground cave of the entrance to hell is under this castle. Now that the mirror wall has risen, you can open fire directly without any scruples. Tony, find a way to delay Doom. I will use the strongest firepower to blast open the castle gate. Li Ji has always been speculating on Doom's character with the greatest malice. He believes that only by grasping Doom's important trump card in his own hands can he be qualified to negotiate with such a person. Because Doom's pride will not easily listen to the opinions of others, even if he knows how terrible and incorrect what he is doing is. Wait a minute, I'm talking to Doom. Tony still wanted to try to talk to Doom, so he replied to Li Ji. But when he turned back to find Doom again, Doom had already left the castle tower. He didn't have so much American time to chat with an Iron Man. He wanted to find his mother's soul and resurrect her. Doom has been planning for more than 10 years. Now no one can stop him, no one. Chapter 258, Prepare to Go to Hell. Doom had no mood to continue chatting with Tony Stark. Except for the 27 guards who formed a 3-3 formation and were defending outside, the rest of his guards began to retreat back to the inside of the castle under his order. Don't worry about the lives of those people. The Hand and the Society have nothing to do with us. This was Doom's order, cold and ruthless, but it was in line with his character. Take everything we prepared. Although the plan has changed a little, it needs to be advanced. But I don't think it's a big deal, right, Kingpin? Doom glanced at Kingpin, who didn't show much expression. He just smiled and rubbed his hands together. It seemed that he was not dissatisfied with what Doom said, that the death of the Hand and the Society had nothing to do with Doom. Although the current leader of the Hand and the Society is Kingpin, Kingpin originally didn't have too many feelings for the Hand and the Society, and was just using them. Yes, Doctor. It's not a big deal, but you'd better use your warriors to delay the enemies outside. Kingpin nodded. I don't think the ninjas of the Hand can hold out against the group of people attacking us now, even if they are fearless. I'm going to gather those yin-yang masters now. We need them to open the seal, and we also need to prepare a way back. I don't think we want to be tied up in hell. Doom did not refute Kingpin's words. Doom signaled to his personal guard captain to lead another 12 people to organize defense. Outside the castle of the Hand, the ninjas of the Hand quickly formed 2 lines of defense, with Doom's personal guard as the core. These guys don't look afraid of death at all. Wolverine's claws are made of real adamantium, so sharp that he easily tore several ninjas into pieces. Because they are already a group of dead people, Li Ji no longer needed to protect the mage. Li Ji also put on the power armor he made and used the electric blade to kill into the melee battle at the front line. The Hell Destroyer Metsuja that provided fire support in the rear provided cover. Those sturdy samurai swords that could split steel. Or armor that can defend against most single soldier gun attacks. Under the edge of the electric blade flashing with arcs. It was like a helpless piece of butter touching a hot knife. A light touch was enough to cut the Hand and the ninja in half. The death of the Hand and the ninja was as strange as ever. He did not turn into a corpse at all, but disappeared directly. He turned into a ball of green light and flew directly back to the castle. Yes, I believe what you said now. They are indeed a bunch of dead people. Wolverine's muscles bulged, and the reality made him excited now. Although Wolverine Logan once left the battle in the past, and even said that he resisted fighting and killing in his mind. However, his body has a primitive desire for fighting and killing. Just like a fierce wolf, hunting prey is his nature. At least killing them does not require a psychological burden. No one will say that we are committing a massacre and then accusing us of crimes against humanity. Wolverine's tone was a little self-deprecating. With the cooperation of the steel mechas of the X-Men, they advanced quickly. And it was relatively smooth. Beast Tank even had some spare time on the battlefield, and found a way to capture some of the green light that had not yet dissipated. This thing is likely to be the soul of the Hand and the Society Ninja, and he put it into a special container. This is just research, you know. Scientists need to have the desire to explore. Beast saw that Li Ji, Wolverine, and Cyclops were all looking at him, and said something. The mutant Ganglishi is the vanguard of this attacking team. He has transformed into a steel form. Not only is his strength formidable, and his body is so strong that it cannot be broken. Even Wolverine's claws made of adamantium cannot scratch his steel skin. You know, among the currently known metals, adamantium has the highest sharpness and durability. Maybe someone will talk about vibranium, but in fact, there are still differences in the use of these 2 metals. Rock and Daredevil Matt are leading a group of ninjas of the Innocent Society, blocking the ninjas from other directions of the Hand and the Society from entering the core area on the periphery, opening up space for Li Ji and his team. Although the ninjas of the Hand and the Society are not strong, their number is too terrifying. And they are not stupid enough to use samurai swords. The ninjas of the Hand and the Society are also very good at hot weapons. If a large number of Hand and the Society ninjas enter the inner circle, the bullets will intertwine and may kill other people. You know, although many of them have special abilities, their bodies cannot resist bullets. The really difficult ones are the elite soldiers under Doom. They wear special exoskeleton power systems, which are fast and powerful. And they have a method between attack and defense. Although they may not be as good as the steel mecha designed by Tony Stark in some aspects, they are better than these mechas in flexibility and judgment of battlefield situation. If these mechas are not controlled manually by Frank and the other 2 and assisted by Jarvis, and only rely on Jarvis's super AI to control them, they are likely to be completely blown up by Doom's army. Jarvis, I think you should study some tactical books, and don't be too rigid and just calculate mathematical formulas. I told you to be bolder sometimes. Tony Stark also discovered this weakness of his Iron Legion. Fortunately, Frank and the other 2 are in control, which can be regarded as a compensation. The central area of the battlefield is locked at the gate of the Hand and the Society's castle, and the attack here is very fierce. You know, the Hand and the Society can even install anti-aircraft missiles on their buildings in New York, so it is even more impossible to have no defense in their own base camp. Although Frank's acupuncture attack destroyed a wave at the beginning of the war, some of the hidden firepower points are now beginning to show their power. Many short-range missiles and heavy machine gun firepower points inside the castle began to roar. "Deal with those missiles," Li Ji shouted to Tony through the communicator. In fact, there was no need for Li Ji to roar. Tony also knew what he needed to do, and he had already notified Jarvis and Frank. "Hell Destroyer, turn on air defense mode. This is not New York, and there are no civilians around." Tony didn't need to worry about whether the fragments splashed after shooting down the anti-aircraft missile would hurt innocent people. The firepower of the 4 Gauss rifles of the Hell Destroyer was not inferior to any dense array system used to defend against missiles in the world. It can be said that such a mecha itself is a mobile weapon station and arsenal. The missile was hit and detonated in the air, exploding into gorgeous fireworks. There is a strange beauty. At the same time, this beauty is accompanied by the roar of explosions and the heat and shock waves that come to the face. Although Doom's army and the firepower points of the Hand and the Society have caused certain obstacles to the actions of Li Ji and others. However, this time Li Ji and his men came prepared after all, and these things could not hinder them for too long. Especially the number of people Doom placed outside for defense was not dominant. When these guards began to retreat in an orderly manner, the balance had begun to tilt towards Li Ji's side. When Li Ji and others successfully broke through the castle gate, the battlefield had become strangely quiet. "It looks like they have run away," Tony said after scanning the empty castle with his own equipment. "Well, it looks like that. But this is expected. We originally hoped to block Doom in the castle and prevent him from entering Hell." Li Ji nodded. "I just didn't expect him to be so decisive. But entering Hell was part of the plan. If you don't go, your new invention may not be useful." Li Ji turned to Tony and said, "I hope my invention will never be used." Tony replied expressionlessly. "By the way, call your guys out. We should go to Hell." "Oh, damn, this word is really unlucky. If you think it's unlucky, you can ask the wizards to make you a lucky bag. I heard it's a Chinese tradition." Spider-Man Peter Parker swung on the spiderweb and came to Tony's side and said. Li Ji didn't care much about whether it was auspicious or not. "Don't worry, I've already notified him. I think he should be here soon." A stream of light and fire that was very far away in the night ran towards the direction of the Shuhu Castle, from a small gap in the mirror wall that the wizards had deliberately opened. Chapter 259 Entrance. Is this the entrance to Hell? Tony Stark was manipulating his iron armor, wandering over the secret underground cave of the Hand. Jarvis, sample and analyze the energy fluctuations inside this cave. He tried to use the scanning device on his armor to analyze the data generated in the hole. Trying to scan the energy band and spectrum. Jarvis faithfully carried out Tony's order. Another scientist in the team, Beast Tank, was also doing the same scan. He used another kind of miniature material capturer. "I'll try to capture and see if the energy overflowing from Hell will have a bad impact on the Earth. Are all scientists like this? Once they start working, they will forget about food and sleep? And then forget what we need to do now." Harry, wearing the Black Goblin armor, looked at the bottomless black hole with some awe. "I think so. I think it's necessary to remind them." Li Ji also saw this mysterious cave of the Hand for the first time. Judging from the traces left on the hole, there should have been a considerable number of chains sealed above the hole. Moreover, the magicians of Kamartaki also found the talismans used for sealing around. This cave entrance has probably existed for thousands of years, a magician said to Lan. Lan nodded, his voice a little cold. "I'm afraid this place was not formed naturally. The remaining traces are more like someone deliberately opened the connection between Hell and the world. And the magicians of all generations have no records about this place. Because our Kamartaki and the Onmyagi of the East are not in line with each other in philosophy, the great Onmyagi of all generations rarely set foot in Kamartaki, and we know very little about the mysterious things of the East. Perhaps after we end this incident, we need to report the matter here in detail to the Supreme Mage." Li Ji heard what Lan said. "Do you suspect that this cave is man-made?" "I think it is unlikely. Through the analysis of the spectrum, there is no real object under this cave." Tony flew to Li Ji's side and shook his head. "The energy fluctuations here are very similar to the space gate that the wizards said they built. But the energy here is even stronger. We can conclude that this is a special energy bridge connecting two completely different spaces. And the form is also more stable. This energy can be dissipated for a long time, and the space gate remains open normally. I don't think human power can do it, not even gods." You said that this place has existed for at least thousands of years. Even if it is a god with great power, he has been consuming his divine power to maintain such a huge energy and connect the two worlds. I'm afraid he would have died long ago. What Tony Stark said is not unreasonable. Master Lan frowned slightly and looked at the other wizards. Yes, what Mr. Stark said makes sense. I also tend to think that this is a special natural structure. Hank looked at the spectrum analyzer in his hand, pushed his black-framed glasses and said, "From the energy structure we know, the energy form of this place is more like a wormhole. Although I am surprised why this wormhole does not have a large amount of energy overflow and swallow the Earth. But the current analysis seems to be true." Hank echoed Tony's inference. "Okay, we can study how this place was formed later, as long as this place becomes the headquarters of the Innocence Society. I believe you can set up a special basement here. Then study this knowledge carefully." Li Ji interrupted the people who wanted to ask more questions. "Let's discuss how to go down through this hole safely first. I don't want to jump down without knowing anything." Li Ji changed the subject and talked about business. Li Ji motioned Johnny Blaze, who was transforming into Ghost Rider, to come forward to see how he felt about this cave. "Johnny, how do you feel? Have you returned to your mother's arms?" Seeing the skeleton burning with flames standing at the entrance of the cave, Peter Parker couldn't help but joked. Johnny turned around and glared at him, but Peter didn't care much. "This place does smell like hell. The soul in my body is very used to this smell. So can we be sure that the other end of this cave is where we are going?" Tony asked with some concern. "Although I admit that you look cool when you become a skull, can we really listen to what this skull says completely? Is there any way to judge how sure he is?" "Tony, you don't know much about the composition of Ghost Rider." Li Ji helped Johnny explain. "There is another soul in the body of Ghost Rider, which is the source of Ghost Rider's power. They are called the Spirit of Vengeance. The Spirit of Vengeance was born in Hell and has a natural affinity and familiarity with Hell. They are like old horses who know the way in Hell and can always find where to go." Li Ji briefly talked about the general idea of Ghost Rider. "And Johnny's Ghost Rider is very special. He should not be a regular Ghost Rider, but a Ghost Rider who was forcibly transformed by Mephisto. So there is a natural intuition about Mephisto. Johnny can always feel his breath." Tony shrugged and said, "Okay, that's it. But can anyone tell me who wants to jump down first and give it a try? This place is very much like a wormhole. Maybe the place we go down to will be hell, but it may also be another space." Tony's words made everyone look at each other in surprise. "This is indeed possible. I'd better go down." Li Ji walked out directly. "At this time, someone must try the water first. It's a bit dangerous. Let the mages go down first." Lan wanted to stop Li Ji. "It doesn't matter much. I have a magic ring of the Supreme Mage in my hand. If there is really danger, it will be embarrassing to ask the ancient mage for help. I believe he will not leave me to die." Li Ji waved his hand. "Give me 2 of the magic stones that can contact you. If I am sure there is no problem, I will crush 1, and if there is a problem, I will crush 2. Then you can prepare to come down according to my signal. Going to another space, ordinary communication signals are useless. But fortunately, before the mages came here, they had already prepared a magic stone for special communication. This is a small magic item made by the Supreme Mage. It is not complicated to make, but it is very practical." Li Ji took the 2 magic stones the size of walnuts handed to him by Lan, jumped up in his power armor, and stepped into the dark deep cave that was like a giant mouth of a glutton. Chapter 260, Things in Another World. The dark mountains stretch endlessly, like a sleeping dragon in the eternal time and space. The color of the soil on the ground is intertwined with black and red, like a red carpet that has become moldy and discolored. There is no boiling magma, and there are no evil spirits howling and screaming everywhere. This hell is not quite what Li Ji imagined. He was originally ready for a big battle. In Li Ji's imagination, hell should be like those in the movies. There are wandering ghosts everywhere, and those ghosts floating everywhere. The earth should be composed of red magma and scorched soil, and perhaps the air should be filled with the smell of blood and sulfur. The land that appeared in front of Li Ji now did not meet his initial expectations. In addition to a sense of desolation and scruples, the appearance of this hell made him a little disappointed, but also a little fortunate. At least he didn't have to face all kinds of monsters and ghosts as soon as he came down. Li Ji crushed a magic stone and informed Master Lan that there was no problem here and everyone could come down. Although there is no clue now, Li Ji still maintains a high state of alert, because this is a different dimension. It is normal for any strange things to happen. About 5 minutes later, everyone passed through this strange time and space link door one after another, and suddenly appeared around Li Ji from the air. Of course, the people of the Rock and the Pure Society did not come down, because they still had to continue to control the Castle of the Hand and the Society. And as a group of mortals, it is not meaningful for them to come down here, but they may become a burden. But Daredevil Matt did come down. Because his extraordinary hearing is very useful, this ability will not be blinded by energy fluctuations, and can clearly detect the surrounding environment in case the radar fails. The wizards from Kamartaki also left 4 in the castle to stabilize the seal of the cave to prevent other hell creatures from invading the earth during this period of time, and to be responsible for picking up everyone in case of problems. These wizards who came out are not as powerful as the Ancient One. The Supreme Wizard Ancient One can rely on his personal ability to forcibly break through 2 different dimensions and create a space door to communicate between the 2 worlds. So he can cross different cosmic dimensions and directly kill the demon who gave Norman Osborn power. But none of these wizards have this ability alone. Only by relying on a magic circle composed of several people can this be barely achieved, and it also requires someone in another space to make a space gate to barely complete it. So this time, including Lan, only 8 wizards came to hell. This place is much more desolate than I thought. Tony's first sigh when he came to hell was the same as Li Ji's. The smell here makes people uncomfortable. Wolverine, who has a super sense of smell, sniffed. Although Li Ji and others could not smell any special smell in the air. But Wolverine's sense of smell has always been very accurate. "What do you smell, Logan?" Hank knew Logan's characteristics, so he asked. "A strong smell of death and a faint smell of blood." Logan pointed to the direction of 10 o'clock, where there was a group of mountains blocking everyone's sight. Li Ji turned his head and looked at Johnny. "Does the spirit of revenge in you recall any special memories?" The flames of revenge burning in Johnny's eyes, who had transformed into a flaming skeleton, grew stronger and stronger. The power here made him feel familiar and warm, as if he was born to live here. "The direction we are going should be there." Johnny pointed to the 10 o'clock direction, the same direction as Logan. "But the journey may be very long. This makes me feel uneasy. There are things everywhere that disturb my heartstrings. As a practitioner born in Kunlun, Iron Fist's practice has always emphasized a peace of mind." He spoke with some uneasiness. "Yes, my intuition tells me. It's dangerous over there. Maybe we shouldn't go there." Peter Parker's spider sense is now ringing alarm bells. It has been warning him that this world is very dangerous. "We will cast a simple meditation spell for everyone to calm the soul. This is hell, the place where most people's souls go. Those with weak minds are likely to have their souls stripped away here." Len and other magicians began to cast spells on everyone. The golden spell was like a golden lotus blooming out of thin air, accompanied by the chanting of Sanskrit, casting a 7-leaf 7-layer treasure lotus. The solemn appearance of the treasure calmed everyone's originally restless hearts. "It's really an incredible effect." Li Ji clenched his fist and said in a low voice. He has seen a lot of magical abilities, but the more he sees, the more unfathomable he feels. Just like those scientists, the more knowledge they know, the more ignorant they feel. "Fly at low altitude, let the Iron Guardian signal Metra be our vanguard and help us explore the way." Li Ji and Tony talked for a few words and roughly specified the basic policy. The Iron Legion will be the pioneer to open the way, and let them serve as a guard on the periphery. Everyone stayed in the circle inside the core. Under the control of Frank and the other 2, the Iron Legion began to move forward according to the established goal. Tony admired the magic of magic and said at the same time, "I really want to know if there are any mages around Doom to help him calm his soul. He must have his own way, but it's a bit strange why there are no traces of them left where we appeared." This is another point that puzzled Li Ji. Maybe the wormhole has its own rules of operation. It's hard to say. Maybe this space moves between several fixed points, or is it completely random within a certain period of time? Hank speculated. Maybe Hank's speculation was not wrong. In another direction far away from Li Ji, Doom and others appeared in another direction, and like Li Ji, they also saw the same black and red soil and the same barren land in front of him. Doom's iron gray boot stepped on the soil, leaving deep footprints. When he lifted his feet, he would always bring up a handful of black and red dust. "It's unexpectedly desolate here, completely different from my imagination." Doom had the same feeling as Li Ji at this time. It seems that many creatures in hell have died. King walked beside Doom and talked in a low voice. The hell creature that broke through the hole, that they may be a creature with considerable intelligence. It may have found the passage connecting the earth and hell like the beast, and it may have been waiting there for a long time to escape from hell. Doom and Kingpin walked slowly, not treating this place as hell at all, but strolling leisurely like in their own backyard. Is it because of the war you mentioned? Doom seemed interested in continuing the conversation that was interrupted by the attack of Li Ji and others. I think it should be. Although Lucifer didn't say it clearly, it seems that the war in hell is very tragic now. All the lords of hell are recruiting soldiers. Kingpin said affirmatively. Then what are they after? Territory? Or wealth? Doom asked casually, looking like he was passing the time while traveling. Lucifer didn't say this, but do these hell demons need too many reasons to attack each other? Kingpin shook his head meaninglessly. Doom turned his head and looked at him, and his face under the iron mask showed a playful smile, but Doom didn't say anything else. Doom's guards surrounded the city in a circle for defense. In the circle were Kingpin, Doom and others, as well as a group of Onmyagi. The Shikigami controlled by the Onmyagi, or more accurately, some low-level monsters, were doing exploration work in a farther place. The Ghost Rider Kambu followed the crowd with his head drooping. He was controlled by the Onmyagi of the Hand and the Society. Only one of his eyes turned into a Ghost Rider, while the rest of his body remained normal. This made him look extremely weird. It was obviously a human body, but the left eye was burning with the flame of the spirit of revenge. The beasts of the Hand and the Society had been fighting with the Ghost Rider for hundreds of years, and they had a set of feasible spells to control the Ghost Rider, which was why Kambu could not get rid of the Hand and the Society. At the outermost edge of the entire circle were the ninjas of the Hand and the Society. To be precise, these ninjas were no longer considered human beings, because their souls had long been taken away. Doom and Kingpin never had any mercy on these ninjas. The meaning of their existence was to be cannon fodder. Doom didn't care much about Kingpin's story about the war in hell. Because he was the monarch of the world, the war in hell had nothing to do with him. When he wandered to the Qinghai Tibet Plateau in China, the monks he met had told him a lot of mysterious things. Doom knew clearly that the universe had its own laws. Even gods couldn't break them easily. No matter how fierce the hell was, the big demons couldn't appear in the world of the living at will. Maybe some powerful lords of hell could conceal their breath and come to the world, but they generally wouldn't expose themselves easily. Because once they were exposed, they would probably attract powerful beings like the Supreme Mage. The only reason they could reasonably appear in the world was for the balance of the universe. All operations in the universe were based on balance as the supreme law. If the balance was not broken, everything had to follow the rules. Doom didn't care about the war in hell, but Li Ji and others on the other side were shocked. They didn't know what was happening in hell. When they moved towards the 10 o'clock direction, a huge and daunting corpse appeared in front of everyone. Chapter 261 Giant Corpse. The long mountain range that can be seen from afar is like a sleeping dragon lying in the direction that Li Ji and others need to move forward. Originally, everyone thought that the strange shapes of these mountains were formed because of the special geographical conditions of hell. But when everyone moved in this direction and prepared to look through the mountains, they found that this place was not as simple as everyone imagined. Damon was the first to discover the problem. The Iron Guardian mecha he controlled was responsible for reconnaissance and patrol. Outside the first layer of reconnaissance circle more than 50 kilometers away from everyone, the monitor of the Iron Guardian sent the detected images back to Damon as soon as possible. Guys, there may be some problems on the route ahead of us. Damon looked at the images displayed on his monitor and said with some surprise. The second person to feel it was the Steel Wolf. His super sense of smell had already smelled the strong smell of blood. Even though they were dozens of kilometers apart and even though no one else could smell it. The Steel Wolf Logan's sense of smell made him feel like he was walking in a bloody slaughterhouse. The air is filled with a very strong smell of blood. The further we walk in this direction, the more obvious it is. Logan also expressed his feelings. Okay, what did you see, Damon? Li Ji stopped and asked Damon. He didn't want to step into a dangerous area for no reason. A corpse. To be honest, I thought it was a mountain before. Until a mecha stretched to a high enough height for me to have a glimpse of the whole picture. Frank said this, and at the same time transmitted the image he received to others. A huge black corpse like a mountain just lay on the ground. Without precise calculations, just relying on visual observation, This huge corpse is probably tens of kilometers long. And the width is also more than 10 kilometers. The image transmitted back is a little affected by the fluctuations of Hell's energy, and it is a little blurry. But it can still be barely distinguished that this corpse is the image of a mythical dragon. Are you sure this is a corpse and not sleeping? Leiji felt his face twitching a little. Maybe there are treasures under its body. Tony Stark laughed dryly. Can we take a detour? Whether it's dead or alive, I don't want to pass by such a huge monster. Leiji asked Johnny. I'm afraid not. I can read some of the memory of the spirit of vengeance. But I can't read it completely. Johnny shook his head. If we take a detour, I'm not sure I can find another way to get to where we are going. Leiji felt a little toothache, and the people around him also focused their eyes on Leiji, waiting for him to make a decision. Are you sure the thing is really dead? Leiji repeatedly confirmed with Damon. After repeatedly getting a positive answer, Leiji finally decided to move in this direction. However, everyone needs to be fully prepared. Of course, this precaution does not mean to fight a monster of this size head-on, but to run away if there is anything wrong. The further you move in that direction, the more red soil there is on the ground. And the color becomes more bright red, instead of the lifeless dark red that you see at the beginning. When Leiji and his group came to the side of this huge corpse with trepidation, Leiji realized that the long mountain range he saw when he first came to Hell was just an illusion. The mountain range he first thought was not a mountain range at all, but just this corpse. Because of some visual deception, he mistakenly thought that he saw a mountain range. In fact, he should have thought of it earlier. This barren and boring Hell, surrounded by open plains, only here is a protruding mountain range, which is really too strange. The closer he got, the clearer Leiji could see. A huge dragon claw drooped dully on the ground. It was twisted at a weird and unreasonable angle with the dragon's corpse, as if it had been broken by someone. Leiji told himself that this was very likely. Originally, he thought that the trees growing on the top of the mountain were trees from Hell, but now standing under this huge corpse that blocked out the sky, Leiji tried to see clearly. Those things he thought were trees turned out to be scales and flesh peeled off from the dragon's back. Those places that looked like gravel and cliffs on the mountain from a distance were all its dark scales. This dragon corpse blocked out the sun and the sky. It must have been an extremely powerful being when it was alive. But now it died here without dignity, which was not in line with its status at all. I didn't expect that the first creature we saw in Hell was actually a corpse. This thing is really fucking big. Tony Stark couldn't help but burst out with a swear word. Do we need to flip over this thing? Peter Parker used spider silk to hang under Harry's glider. It seems so. I guess it definitely doesn't want us to do this. It doesn't look like a very friendly person when it was alive. Leiji tried to make his tone seem more relaxed. It looks like it has been dead for a long time. Master Lan's face was a little solemn. But the corpse has no signs of decay. It should have been a demon god before. Only a divine body can be immortal for a long time. Such a powerful god fell, but we didn't know it at all. Leiji, who was driving another glider to slowly climb to higher altitude and preparing to fly over the dragon's corpse, heard Lan's words. Are you sure this is a demon god? Yes, although I can't be sure of his identity. But he is at least a demon god of the main god level. There are not many such beings in the entire universe. Even Mephitis is only a demon god of the main god level in terms of power. Lan nodded affirmatively. So what we are seeing now is the death of a great man who is close to the existence of a god. Tony Stark was scanning the body with the equipment on his armor. Hank was held by Mecha and flew to the place where the flesh of the body was turned over. He was holding various tools and ready to start sampling and analysis. The mages themselves can rely on magic to walk in the air, and the others who can't fly are all held by steel mechas, ready to fly directly here. But no one wants to step on this huge corpse with their own feet. Wait, there seems to be a sign of life somewhere. Damon made a new discovery. At the other end of the body where everyone climbed over, a group of humanoid creatures with green skin, goat horns and horse hooves were worshipping the dead body. They seemed to be chanting something, and the strong wind blowing in Hell carried their voices into Leiji's ears. Although he couldn't understand what they were saying, Leiji could hear the sadness in it. They are worshipping, they are praying that the gods they believe in can be resurrected. Master Lan glanced at the creatures who were worshipping from a distance. Do you understand what they are saying? Leiji was a little curious. Traditional demon language is also a compulsory course in Kamatiki. Lan didn't explain more, just nodded. Just as Li Ji discovered this group of strange creatures, a group of hell creatures with human bodies, goat horns and horse hooves also discovered Li Ji and his group. They roared at Li Ji and others angrily. What do you think they are saying? Li Ji turned his head and glanced at Lan. Anyway, they are not welcoming us. Chapter 262 Strange Demon. In fact, Master Lan didn't need to say too much. Everyone soon discovered that those strange creatures showed their unfriendly side. These creatures had goat horns and horse hooves, and their skin color was an inexplicable light green. They stopped yelling or scolding Li Ji and others. Most of them were naked from the waist up, revealing their strong muscles. The lower body was sewn with clothes that looked a bit like skirts with unknown materials. A small detail, it seems that the stronger the creature, the more luxurious and longer the clothes they wear. Maybe this clothing is related to the social status of these species? If you ignore their skin color and the goat horns on their heads, and only look at the upper body. In fact, this creature is very similar to humans. Li Ji remembered the portraits he had seen in some churches or other monuments. There are such creatures in murals describing the battle between gods and demons. Maybe they should be called goat-headed monsters, or use the name that more people like, goat horn demons. This group of goat horn demons panted, and the breath with white smoke and sulfur smell came out of their mouths and noses. This reminded Li Ji of the old steam engines from the 19th century that he had seen in the museum. We'd better leave here quickly. It looks like they are going to attack us. Tony's inference made some sense. Maybe we have blasphemed their gods. After all, we flew directly over its corpse. Maybe it's because we are human and the demons want to eat human flesh. Li Ji used another more plain and humorous statement. How are they going to attack us? They have no weapons. And it looks like they don't dare to step on the body of this dragon. Peter discovered a small detail. But soon, Peter found that he had some bad intentions. The demons who were worshipping in front of the dragon stared at Li Ji and his group. Kuliia. The goat horn demons muttered something in their mouths. They uttered a short and powerful syllable in demon language. Li Ji didn't understand the meaning of this syllable, but he soon understood it. A gust of sand and dust rolled up on the black and red soil under the feet of the goat horn demons. The scale was not large. It was just at their feet, less than 1 meter in radius. The red soil was gathered by them, and the power of wildness and destruction was transmitted through their bodies, and gathered towards these somewhat strange red soils. Through the shaping of the demonic power, the originally loose red soil turned into weapons in their hands. Whether it was a spear, bow and arrow, or big sword and axe, although it looked simple, it had a kind of power that made people feel palpitating. A most primitive and wild power, destruction and killing. Li Ji did not doubt whether these seemingly simple weapons could kill people, and he was not going to test whether the demons of hell were more powerful. Or was it that the Iron Legion brought by Tony was more powerful? Stretch the altitude, we'd better evacuate here quickly. Li Ji conveyed to everyone through the communicator. I hope they can't fly. Good idea. I don't want to go to war with these guys who look like demons. Although my uncle and aunt are devout Catholics. Peter Parker urged Harry to raise the altitude of the glider so that he could leave here smoothly. Yes, we'd better not conflict with the native residents of hell. This is not worth the loss. Master Lan also appropriately followed everyone and stretched his flying altitude together. Most creatures in hell are very vengeful, and their hatred marks will follow their enemies for their entire lives. And it may be inherited, and they will make their enemies' descendants restless. One side must be completely eliminated before the hatred can be resolved. So the demons are all petty. Harry controlled the glider to keep flying as smoothly as possible, so that Peter Parker, who was hanging under the glider, would not feel too uncomfortable. That's right. Lan nodded. After crossing the dragon's corpse, Li Ji and others wanted to get rid of these demons. However, Li Ji misjudged one thing. Although these demons did not have wings, they could also fly. These red oil seemed to be the source of their power. The red sandstorm lifted these demons into the sky, although the height was not as high as Li Ji and others. But they had indeed flown up, and they were not flying at a low altitude. Are they going to follow us like this? After flying for more than 10 minutes, the number of goat horn demons following Li Ji and others not only did not decrease, but began to increase. Because Li Ji and others passed by many villages or gathering places of these goat horn demons in the sky where they flew. In the center of these gathering places, there is a huge black stone statue, which is the dead dragon. The dragon statue is majestic and the carving is delicate and vivid. Li Ji dares to bet that even if Michelangelo comes back to life, he may not be able to carve such an extraordinary work. However, no matter how extraordinary these sculptures are, the protagonist of these sculptures, the terrible dragon, is now dead on the land of hell. It has no dignity and spirit, and does not even have a decent tomb. It is just a simple corpse in the wilderness. And its believers still pray that it can come back to life. The demons chasing Li Ji kept passing on the news of Li Ji and others to the gathering places and other goat horn demons along the way. This made the chasing team become larger and larger, and the red sand covered the sky and formed a spectacular sand wall that kept rolling forward. The followers of this demon god seem very pious. They must have obtained power and protection from this demon god, and they must have worshipped the demon god, which is why they are like this. Len and other Kamartaki mages are no longer flying on their own, because it consumes too much magic power, and it is unknown when this chase will end. Now the mages are also carried in the air by the mecha. If that's the case, now that the demon god is dead, shouldn't their power begin to fade? Li Ji looked at the demons chasing him, and more demons felt that they had gotten into trouble for no reason. Because it's these red soils, we should have noticed it. The closer to the dragon's body, the brighter the red soil. And the farther away, the darker the soil color. Lan pointed to the ground thousands of meters above the sky. The farther the black and red soil is from the dragon's body, the darker the red is. The red soil now no longer has the original bright red, lively feeling like blood. Instead, it is lifeless and full of a sense of desolation and decline. This should be the last power left by the demon god before his death. Its blood entered this land. This land has become the source of these demons' power. Lan pointed to farther direction, where there were large tracts of black land like black ink. The red color seemed to have completely disappeared. I think we'd better leave this place with red soil. There, I think we can avoid these demons that are chasing us like locusts. Lan's statement was indeed correct. When the red soil became thinner and thinner, more and more demons began to fall behind. And their tracking speed became slower and slower. It was not until the last batch of goat horn demons disappeared from the side of Li Ji and others that Li Ji was relieved. Can you put me down and move around for a while? I'm freezing. Peter Parker expressed the thoughts of many people. Of course, we do need to rest for a while, because we seem to be a little lost now. Li Ji looked around. Just now, a group of people tried every means to get rid of those goat horn demons in order to avoid unnecessary conflicts and waste ammunition and energy. As a result, there was a big deviation in the direction of travel, and now I'm afraid they have deviated from the route. Li Ji now feels his teeth ache again. However, the group who were originally planning to take a short break here still encountered a small problem. Everyone thought that they had left the area where the group of goat horn demons were. But when the goat horn demon, who looked very strong, but had black and white hair and looked a little old, lifted a huge rock and came out of a hidden cave underground, everyone thought that they had not left the activity range of the group of hell natives. When everyone pointed their weapons at this demon and prepared for a possible large-scale battle, the goat horn demon looked at Li Ji and others with an even more astonished look. He quickly raised his hands to indicate that he had no ill intentions, and uttered a word that everyone was familiar with in an extremely unfluent and awkward voice. Human. Chapter 263. Devil Bart. My computer broke down yesterday, and I spent the whole day fixing it. And the chapter I wrote was lost again, so I didn't feel like writing anymore, so I stopped for a day. Please forgive me, sorry. What was surprising was not only that this demon could speak human language, and English, but also what the demon did next. This strong-horn demon knelt on one knee with his palms facing up and muttered something. The voice was a little faint, and it was in demon language, so Li Ji couldn't understand what he said. No signs of other life were detected nearby. Tony's Iron Legion had established a defense circle within a radius of 15 kilometers. What is he doing? Tony frowned and looked at the demon. If he has malicious intentions, we should just wipe him out directly. There's only one demon. It won't consume much ammunition and time. Tony's question was exactly what Li Ji wanted to ask. What are you talking about? If you can understand what we are saying, you'd better answer honestly. Li Ji was a little curious about this demon. This was his first close contact with highly intelligent creatures other than humans. Although demons and humans live in different planes, from the macro perspective of the universe. In fact, everyone lives in the same universe, just in different dimensions of the universe. He is praising the true God. Lan can understand demon language, so she helped translate the demon's chatter. Praise killing and eternity. The opposition of darkness and light, and praying for eternity at the same time. Huh. Peter Parker remembered the dragon corpse he had just seen. These demons said that the true God they believed in was already dead. What's the use of his prayers now? But Peter Parker just sighed with a tone and didn't say anything. But Tony Stark's mouth has always been very poisonous. When he knew what the demon was talking about, he said very sarcastically, "Are you praying for eternity like a fallen demon who can't even take care of his own life? I thought the IQ of the native creatures of hell was not that low." Tony's bad mouth attracted the attention of others, but with the iron mask covering it, no one could see what Tony's expression was. Anyway, he pretended not to see the eyes of everyone. Tell him where he is now and whether there are any of his people nearby. He'd better answer honestly, otherwise I believe that even demons can't resist the temperature of more than 6,000 degrees. Tony has done something serious now, and his palm cannon has begun to charge. Threats are useless. The demon finally finished his prayer. His human language was very awkward, but he could still communicate. The death of the Earth dragon Neltharion was just an accident. It seems that Neltharion is the name of the dragon he saw before. There is one thing you can rest assured, human. The fall of Lord Neltharion has caused our power to decline. Now most of our people dare not step out of the Red Land. The Goathorn demon did not seem to be afraid at all, even though many weapons were pointed at his vital points. Then why did you step out of that piece of red soil? It seems that the red soil is the source of your power. Li Ji was a little curious. This demon gave people a strange feeling. It seems to have a little more humanity. Maybe this description is a bit weird, but it is true. Those stupid guys don't understand that the red earth power that Lord Neltharion finally built is not for us to live in hiding. Without the protection of the earth dragon, if we don't leave our original habitat, we will eventually be destroyed by other demons. The demon sneered. Tony didn't want to waste time here, so he asked, "Okay, now I know why you live here, demon. We don't interfere with each other. Tell us the location of the city of the dead and we will leave immediately. You can continue to live in your cave." The Goathorn demon glanced at Tony Stark, and Li Ji felt that there was some pity in his eyes. It was like seeing those stray cats with no food on the roadside. Tony felt uncomfortable being looked at by him, but fortunately he spoke quickly. "Give up, you will never get there. The city of the dead is now the most dangerous place in hell. You don't even know what the place you are going to now looks like." The longer the demon communicated with Li Ji and others, the more fluent he spoke, as if he remembered how fluorescent spoke. The little information revealed by this demon made Li Ji and others look at each other. It seems that hell is not peaceful now. As soon as we arrived here, we could see the corpse of a giant dragon of the main god level. Tony didn't want to waste words with the demon and was ready to use force. But Master Lan stopped him. Tony was always very gentlemanly to beautiful women. As a magician of Kamartaki and one of the direct disciples of the supreme magician Gu Yi, Lan was more concerned about what happened in different planes than others. In particular, the plane of hell and the plane where the earth was located were closely related. Kamartaki knew nothing about what was happening in hell now. Lan didn't know whether Gu Yi knew everything that happened here, but she didn't want to miss any opportunity to find out the news. Especially when it seemed that this demon could still communicate. "What should I call you? Tell me your real name." Master Lan didn't attract the attention of the demon at first, but when Master Lan began to form a seal on her hand. When the golden red magician's whip appeared in her hand, the Goathorn demon suddenly widened his eyes. "You are a mage." "Yes." "Which school of mage are you from?" "A disciple of the supreme mage." "Show me your credentials." The demon seemed a little excited. Lan frowned, as if she had thought of something. She took out the Zhuan ring that every mage from the lineage of the supreme mage would have. The Zhuan ring is an important magical tool that must be used to build the space gate. Only mages who have graduated from the supreme mage are qualified to own it. The Zhuan ring shook in front of the demon's eyes, making his eyes widen. "You can tell me your name, remember it is your real name." Lan put away the Zhuan ring and said seriously, "I'm sorry for my rudeness, Master Mage." The demon, who was originally indifferent, suddenly became respectful, which surprised Li Ji. "My real name is Yuitan Bart. You can call me Bart. This name is not long, and it sounds too much like a human name, not a demon." "Do you think he said his real name? This doesn't sound like a demon's name, but too much like a human." Li Ji discussed with Lan in a low voice. "Yes, Demons usually don't have such names, unless they have been to Earth and served a wizard. Lan answered Li Ji's question in a low voice. Li Ji looked at the demon Bart, who was respectful to Lan, and couldn't figure out how this green-skinned demon with the goat horns and horse hooves could serve a wizard. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264, Enigmatic and Greenwich. Perhaps guessing that Li Ji might have a questions in this regard, Master Lan deliberately explained the relationship between demons or other mysterious creatures and mages. The cultivation of mages is the same as that of other practitioners, and is divided into different schools. In the early years, quite a number of mages had the habit of driving the demons of hell as their servants. Some people, because of the limitations of the human body, hoped to get inspiration from demons. They sign various contracts with demons, some fair and some unfair. Others have different cultivation methods and are born to rely on demons to cultivate. For example, the Japanese yin-yang masters who still use this method today. They are the best among them. So Bart, which school of mages did you follow? After Lan explained a few sentences, he turned his head to Bart, the goat-horn demon, and asked, "Respected master, I started to follow the Supreme Master more than 30 years ago." The goat-horn demon was very respectful. When did Master Guyu summon demons? Doesn't he dislike creatures from other planes? Li Ji raised a question. I am not a disciple of the contemporary Supreme Master, but a branch of Master Merlin in London, Earth. Bart answered quickly. He didn't want to be regarded as a liar now, and he still had something to ask Master Lan. Master Merlin was the Supreme Master 1,000 years ago. But his disciples did not pass on much, and some were judged to have turned to the devil in another dimension. Lan nodded and acknowledged the existence of Master Merlin. There is still a difference between the ancient wizard and Master Merlin in the way of cultivation. So now our enigmatic wizards rarely use monsters. This is the biggest difference between our enigmatic and Greenwich wizards. Note, a district in London, England, not a small town in the United States. Okay, this is considered the same sect but different sects. Li Ji probably explained what Lan said with his own understanding. In a way that is more in line with the understanding of ordinary Chinese people, that is, at the same time, it is Huishan sect, but there is a difference between sword sect and key sect? You probably understand it this way. Lan couldn't think of a better explanation. The London temples in the Greenwich area, and the mages of enigmatic have a lot of exchanges with Greenwich. Our senior brother, Baron Mordo, has been managing the London temple. He has a deep relationship with the mages of the Greenwich faction, and many of the mages in Greenwich still retain the habit of driving demons. Because their practice methods basically follow the Merlin wizard's line. Merlin lived in the Dark Ages 1,000 years ago, and the earth was more chaotic at that time. It's not disrespectful to Merlin, but when he was alive, he was far from being able to protect the entire earth like the Ancient One. And he didn't completely dispel the various demons on the earth. In my opinion, the Supreme Mage faction of that era had some appeasement policies. Although Lamb said that she didn't disrespect Merlin, the content of her words was not like this. Legend has it that Merlin's magic power is superb, and it is not inferior to the various main gods. But when he was in power, the earth was still in a period of chaos and attacked by various monsters and gods, using the earth as a battlefield. He seemed to be too obsessed with improving his own magic power. Although he once helped King Arthur drive away some evil spirits on the British Isles and established one of the earliest holy places in the Dark Ages. However, well, 1,000 years have passed. It is not appropriate for us to comment on the good or bad of the great wizard Merlin. Li Ji interrupted Lan's speech, because it was meaningless to make any comments about a predecessor who lived 1,000 years ago and had passed away. Lan glanced at Li Ji, and she realized her impoliteness. It was no secret in enigmatic that she didn't like the mages of the Greenwich faction. Otherwise, Ancient One originally intended to let Lan go to London to help Baron Mordo manage the temple together. Because among the three major temples, the Greenwich temple is the most special. There are quite a few items related to the great wizard Merlin in the Greenwich temple, and there are also various knowledge books left by him. Although enigmatic has some transcribed backups, in many cases, magic books can only resonate with incredible magic by reading the original works written by the creator himself. As the former supreme wizard, Merlin asked to be buried in Greenwich before his death, and all his private collections and items were sealed in the Greenwich Temple. Greenwich was not under the jurisdiction of London at that time. A sentence that people often say, words are powerful. This sentence may be an abstract description for ordinary people, or it may be rich in some philosophical meanings, and is usually used as a metaphor. But for the existence of the Supreme Master, words are power. Words come out in the law follows is not a simple literary adjective for them, but a power that conforms to the operation of the law of nature. So unless the Ancient One is ready to go to war with the mages of the Greenwich faction, it is impossible to break the protective spell left by the great wizard Merlin silently, and secretly transfer the relics of the great wizard Merlin, including books. So if the mages who have graduated from Kamartaki want to continue their studies, in addition to traveling around and gaining knowledge, the most visited place is Greenwich. Greenwich is the second most important gathering place for mages on Earth besides Kamartaki. This is also the reason why the Ancient One placed his trusted disciple, Baron Mordo, in the London Temple. Of course, there is another reason that the Ancient One cannot say. He is a little worried about the mages of the Greenwich faction, and the reason is very simple. Look at Bart, the strong and mighty goat-horn demon standing in front of Li Ji and Lan, who once served the wizards of the Greenwich faction. Perhaps smart people have guessed what the Ancient One is worried about. But he cannot interfere too much, because the wizards of the Greenwich faction are of a different nature from him. Although they are nominally under the jurisdiction of the Ancient One, they are all independent. The inheritance left by the great wizard Merlin is enough for most wizards to practice for a lifetime. They don't have to go to Kamartaki. So in addition to being responsible for the daily management of the London Temple, Mordo also took on the important task of communicating with the wizards of the Greenwich faction. The Ancient One does not want any trouble in this faction, and their way of practice is a bit dangerous. So, what you mean is that to this day, the wizards of the Greenwich faction are still gaining power by communicating with various different planes. Li Ji felt a little bit incredible. His previous understanding of mages was all focused on Kamartaki. For such a faction that he had never come into contact with, Li Ji couldn't make a rash judgment and evaluate the good or bad of others. But at least he kept a watchful eye in his heart. Greenwich mages generally do not allow their demon servants to leave them. Unless he dies. And even if your master is dead, you should not leave Greenwich. This is the rule. Who is your previous master? Where's your mark? Lan ended the conversation with Li Ji and brought the focus back to the demon Bart. Her tone was very stern. At the same time, the other mages who followed Lan were ready to fight. The mages of Greenwich never allow their servants to escape. Respected Master Mage, this is my mark. The goat-horn demon Bart quickly lifted his sleeves, and the mark composed of the two letters G and Z in cursive font was branded on the inside of his arm. This place is generally where those Greenwich mages like to brand their souls. It is indeed Greenwich's method. A wizard said to Lan after a careful check. Then there is another question, how did you leave Greenwich and return to hell? Lan did not relax his vigilance because of this news. That's because my master is here too. The demon Bart said a piece of news that surprised Li Ji and others. There is another wizard from Greenwich right here? Chapter 265, Hell is almost over? There is indeed a Greenwich wizard here, and it is underground where the demon Bart came out. The huge stone is a cover. In fact, there is a larger space inside, but this size is only relative. The underground space cannot accommodate so many people like Li Ji. More people still have to stay in the space on the ground, and they also need people to look after the surroundings. However, the situation of seeing this Greenwich wizard is not what Li Ji thought. Originally, seeing that Lan was not very friendly to the Greenwich faction wizard, Li Ji thought that the two would have a conflict. But the final facts proved that he thought too much. The expected conflict did not happen at all, because a dead person cannot jump out of the cemetery to quarrel with you. Well, this is the reality in front of Li Ji. A Greenwich wizard for some reason, perhaps Merlin wizard recorded something in the book. Or he discovered something on the way to pursue the true meaning of magic. In short, no matter what the reason, this wizard brought his servant, the goat-horn demon Bart, into hell in a special way. Then, there was no more. He is now lying here quietly, protected by a coffin made of stone by Bart. He has been dead for nearly 5 years. The craftsmanship of the coffin is very rough. It seems that the person who made it did not have much experience in folding, nor did he have any artistic talent. The knife marks left by the sharp tool are still on the outside of the sarcophagus, which looks bumpy. It is obvious that it was made in a hurry. It looks like this should have been the laboratory of Master Rooney before he died. Because there is a small tombstone in front of the coffin, engraved with the name of the master before he died, Li Ji and Lan know how to call this master. This underground space is not very open, but the things are well organized. Most of the furniture is made of the most common material here. A hard stone with black and gray colors. Unlike the rough coffin, these furniture are also made of the roughest stone. But it is obvious that the maker has put a lot of effort. The furniture has been finely polished. Li Ji suspects that it should not be polished by hand. Because he didn't think a wizard who came to hell would be so bored that he would spend a lot of time polishing his furniture. Maybe these were made using magic. This could explain why the coffin made by Bart was out of tune with the other furniture in the room. Li Ji also saw a platform made of boulders. The platform was very neat, and there was even a cursive letter G in the middle of the platform, which looked like a decorative inscription. It seems that Master Rooney originally planned to live here permanently. Li Ji made his own inference after looking at the furniture. He even had the mood to make artistic carvings and inscriptions on his furniture. It seems that he really planned to stay here for a long time. But why did he come here? Why did he die here? Lan's brows were already twisted into river. She threw the question to Bart. Because the master is conducting a research here. Bart stroked the coffin, and Li Ji felt a little cold when a demon made such a move. What research? Where are Master Rooney's books and magic notes? Li Ji and Lan had just seen a bookshelf in this room, but did not see a single book. There are bookshelves that prove that there were books here before, or rather, the notebooks of the wizard when he was doing experiments. But now there is nothing. The only explanation is that they were taken away by the demon Bart, who is still alive here. Master Wizard, this is hell. The master died, and he was not allowed to leave his remaining magical knowledge in hell. Bart lowered his head and stroked the coffin. So where are those books? Burned according to the master's wishes. All. Then why did Wizard Rooney come here? Li Ji continued to search in the room. He was also a little curious about a wizard appearing in hell for no reason. I can't tell you, unreasonable stranger. I am only loyal to wizards, not to humans. Bart didn't like Li Ji's questioning, and he seemed a little angry. He raised his head and shouted in the direction of Li Ji. It looked like a swear word, but it was said in demon language, and Li Ji couldn't understand it. What is he saying? Li Ji glanced at Lan. He is cursing your kindness. Lan's explanation made Li Ji a little confused. Huh? This is a curse word in hell. Lan explained. Well, because of the meaning of this swear word, Li Ji didn't intend to trouble Bart. Then you should tell me what Master Rooney is doing here. Lan continued Li Ji's question. Bart's eyes seemed a little hesitant. His lips moved several times, but he still didn't speak. My patience is limited, Bart. If it weren't for you being a servant of Master Greenwich, I could completely peel off your soul. I believe you saw that there was also a ghost rider following us. I think you understand what ghost rider represents. They can torture your soul, and the spirit of vengeance has the ability to make you live a life worse than death. Lamb threatened Bart with the identity of Johnny Blaze. Of course, this can only be intimidation, because Johnny is not an orthodox ghost rider, he is just a fake transformed by Mephisto. But this does not prevent Bart from being scared. For most hell demons, death is not terrible. The fear of death of creatures born in hell is much smaller than that of humans. But they are afraid of the torture of the soul, which will be a terrible punishment of eternal life without reincarnation. Maybe those powerful bigwigs are not afraid of the soul punishment of the ghost rider, but there is definitely no one named Bart in the list of these bigwigs. Bart finally spoke under the threat of Lan. I can't tell you everything, because the master asked me to keep it secret. This secret can only be told to the London Temple mage Baron Mordo. Li Ji and Lan looked at each other. The London Temple mage was also involved. How do you want to notify Mordo? Write to him in hell. Li Ji asked Bart with a hint of sarcasm. Although he didn't know how this Rooney mage entered hell before. But Li Ji didn't believe that an ordinary demon could easily leave hell. Of course not, I'm looking for an exit back to the human world. Bart said, and drew his hands and feet. Now the dark places in hell are spreading news that there is an exit to the human world. Many demons are looking for this exit, and everyone is preparing to leave here. Li Ji suddenly felt a sudden shock in his heart. Who is spreading these news? And why do demons want to leave hell? Bart glanced at Li Ji with a corner of his eye, and then said to Lan very politely. Master Mage, I don't know who is spreading this news. As for why I want to leave hell, it's because hell is almost over. Bart said the shocking news. My master and I entered here more than 20 years ago. At that time, the Earth Dragon Neltharion was still the ruler of this land. But everything changed soon after. Bart said with a look of reminiscence in his eyes. Now you are here. Master Mage, you must have a way to return to the human world. Please take me with you. I need to return to Greenwich and give the Master's message to Baron Mordo. Chapter 266 Ether. While Li Ji and Lan were questioning Bart in Master Rooney's laboratory, the others who were repairing and on guard on the ground were not idle either. A large part of the reason why Beast Hank came to Hell this time was for experiments and investigations. Investigating the structure and dynamics of another world is a fatal temptation for scientists, especially when there are other intelligent creatures in this world. Hank brought quite a lot of scientific experimental equipment, although most of them were portable. But even so, it was still full of a big bag. Leaving the last blessing place of the Earth Dragon Neltharion, the Goathorn Demon will not step into this black soil, and no other signs of life have been detected nearby. This is a very good place for Hank to experiment and collect. The big bag that Hank brought was as tall as a person, and it was filled with various experimental and testing instruments in different categories. If it weren't for Hank's infinite power as a mutant, ordinary people would not be able to carry so many things with such a heavy package. As Hank's students, Cyclops and Storm are helping Hank fiddle with these instruments. Wolverine is not very interested in these. He smells the smell of cigars in Frank's arms. He went up to ask for one, and the two of them smoked cigars on the side. Although Hank looked like a beast, he was very meticulous, and even the movements of taking soil samples were very delicate. He carefully took out the test tubes and sorted the collected soil and stones into categories. At the same time, he took out a portable particle catcher and began to try to collect particles and subatomic particles in the air. Tony Stark, who is also a scientist, and Peter Parker, a top student, watched Hank's actions with interest. The current Black Goblin Harry Osborn was also watching, but he did not interrupt or participate. Because he had a lot of contact with Tony Stark, Harry could not hide his habits as well as Li Ji. He didn't want Tony Stark to see through his true identity. Only Tony Stark could do such a high-profile thing as Iron Man. What are you doing? Peter Parker saw Hank turn on the particle catcher and started working, and came forward to ask with interest. Capturing particles and subatomic particles. The Beast took out a pair of black-framed glasses and put them on himself. His portable particle catcher is very similar to a laptop, but it is larger and thicker. There is also a tiny radar above the laptop screen. But Peter doesn't think it is used to receive Wi-Fi signals. Maybe it has other uses? Peter soon found out what the tiny radar is used for, because when Hank fully operated and started the machine, many tiny fly-like flying vehicles flew out from the bottom exit of the machine. Exquisite design. Did you make this yourself? There is no such device on the market. Tony Stark praised Hank's device after looking at it. It reminds me of the neutrino detector I designed, but they are not so small and portable. How many useful particles can you capture with this machine? Not many, because of power issues. Sampling and analysis are difficult due to the size and power, but at least it can be used. Hank answered while operating the device. What kind of subatomic and neutrino particles are you catching? Peter asked with great interest. Have you heard of ether particles? Hank let the device run and turned to Tony and Peter and said, Please, you are a scientist, not a theologian. Ether? Are you going to study earth, water, fire and wind at the same time to become a great wizard? Oh, yes, we have wizards here. Hank, you can learn from them. I heard that their training is actually very scientific. Tony smiled and shook his head when he heard about ether particles. What are ether particles? Harry pulled Peter Parker beside him. He had never heard of this term. Oh, this is knowledge that is not taught in school. Rather than physical knowledge, it is more like a philosophical concept. Peter Parker whispered in Harry's ear. This is a hypothesis proposed by Aristotle. Everything is made of ether. Ether particles are the source of everything and the foundation of reality. However, the scientific community abandoned the ether hypothesis a long time ago. It's been at least 200 years. The scientific community has long since rejected the ether hypothesis. However, as a philosophical thought, it has been preserved. It is the earliest knowledge of the classical physics school. Together with the four substances of earth, water, fire and wind, It is recognized as the earliest exploration and summary of nature by humans. Where did you read this? Harry looked at him after hearing what Peter said. Oh, the internet. You know, I had to look through all kinds of materials in order to submit research reports and apply for college. Peter spread his hands. Spider-Man is right. Ether particles have never been confirmed. It is more of a hypothesis. Or we can entrust it to spirit, or study it as philosophy. Tony Stark nodded and confirmed Peter Parker's statement. Iron Man Tony Stark is an applied scientist. Although all his inventions and research are very cutting edge, most of them are closely related to human life. Most of his technology is what is needed in daily reality. Whether it is energy or weapons, or transportation and smelting technology. These are all things that are inseparable from life. Tony rarely deals with metaphysical things, such as the research that Dr. Charles, who is now building a base on the moon, is doing, or what Hank is doing now. But even if Tony himself doesn't do these things, he does not understand the importance of these things. Because these studies are the foundation, and applied sciences are the branches and leaves attached to these foundations. But things like ether particles are still too much, more sideways than the antimatter and dark matter that Charles wants to study, and closer to mysticism than traditional science. Ether particles have never been confirmed. If you really want to explore the mysteries of the universe, I think after this operation is over, I can invite you to the moon once. Tony tried to dispel Hank's research. Because he could see that Hank was a rare scientist, and such a genius scientist should use his strength in the right way, instead of wasting his energy on useless work. If you want to explore the grand topic of the world's composition, I think you and Dr. Charles will have something in common. He is building a base on the moon, where he can capture dark matter and antimatter, and those studies may be more helpful. I know you may think that what I do is ridiculous, or even nonsense. Because the ether particles have never been truly proven. Hank pushed his black-framed glasses and said slowly. Many people think that Aristotle thousands of years ago just used his bizarre dreams to give a plausible answer to the ultimate question of mankind. Tony, Peter and even Harry nodded, they all thought so. But if I tell you now that I have detected ether particles, and they are in London on Earth, what will you think? Behind the glasses, Hank's eyes suddenly sharpened. Chapter 267 Reason. Are you kidding? Right. Tony said in disbelief. But Hank's expression was very serious, not joking at all. You mean you detected ether particles? And right here on Earth, in London? Tony's tone was a little higher, which made his voice a little distorted and sounded a little funny. Yes, in London. Hank glanced at Tony, then continued to lower his head to fiddle with his equipment. Wait. Peter Parker thought of a key question. Dr. Hank doesn't distrust you, but humans have never detected ether particles. Maybe you discovered something in London. Maybe it's a new atomic structure that has never been discovered, or a neutrino. This brand new particle may not have been recorded, so could you mistake the newly discovered particle for an ether particle? Peter Parker still held a skeptical attitude. After all, the spirit of science is to make bold assumptions and carefully verify them. Discovering a brand new particle is enough to win the Nobel Prize in physics, if this particle is very useful. Tony lifted his steel mask, walked to Hank's side, and looked at the screen of his equipment very seriously. But if it is ether particles, then it is ether. Tony emphasized the word ether. That is the legendary God particle, the foundation of everything. Only the real gods can have this power. Ether particles are the origin of everything, and the pillars of the real world. Dr. Hank, do you understand what you are talking about? Tony's expression was extremely serious. It was rare to see this playboy talking to people in such a serious manner. I think things like God are not so rigorous, although there are many boasts in the Bible. But today, we have seen so many strange things. I think, Tony, you should have understood that God is not an omniscient and omnipotent existence. It was Li Ji who spoke before Hank spoke. He had come out of the cave, and as soon as he walked out of the cave, he heard Tony's voice raising his voice. We already know that there are many gods in this world. Don't forget that we just passed by the body of a powerful god not long ago. Li Ji was referring to the earth dragon Niltharion. So what exactly is making you quarrel? Dr. Hank said he had detected ether particles in London, which are the legendary ether particles that built everything. But it seems that Mr. Tony Stark still doesn't believe it. Peter Parker roughly told Li Ji what happened. Ether. Li Ji pondered for a while. He seemed to have thought of something. If he remembered correctly, The Dark Elves invaded the Earth for the ether particles. And the ether seemed to be one of Thanos' Infinity Stones? The plot of the movie that Lee Ji had watched was long ago and vague. He didn't know if his memory was right. Could it be that the ether particles have appeared in London now? Whether the ether particles exist is indeed controversial, but most of us wizards believe that the ether exists. Following behind Lee Ji was the wizard Lan, and the demon Bart followed behind her obediently. There was a new soul mark on the left arm of the demon Bart, which was branded by Lan. She finally decided to take Bart out. It seems that the wizard Rooney came to Hell and the temple wizard Mordo in London had a lot of connections. Otherwise, he would not have asked Bart to bring the message to Mordo before he died. Rooney's death was also very strange. Master Rooney was indeed in Hell to do research on communication with different planes. The space on Earth is actually a super stable form. Unless there is a powerful ability like Master Ancient One, it is difficult for a single wizard to open the door to different time and space. If you want to open the door to different time and space, you often have to gather the power of everyone, and even need to use the power of the temple to do it. The wizards of the Greenwich faction have a natural curiosity about contact with different planes from the Foundation. This is the doctrine left by Master Merlin. Master Merlin once wandered through the heavens and absorbed power and knowledge from various different planes. The wizards of the Greenwich faction are not opposed to this method. Of course, the supreme wizard in power now is Ancient One, and Master Ancient One is not an old-fashioned person. But he is very resistant to obtaining power from different planes, especially obtaining energy from places like dark space. Therefore, the mages of the Greenwich faction cannot use the power of the London Temple as easily as before to help them practice in other planes. If you want to easily go to other planes to absorb power and practice, the best way is to leave the Earth with a super stable space form and go to a place where the space is not so stable. Hell is a very good place. The space form here is not so stable, but it is not so chaotic that it cannot survive. There are many fragments of different dimensions here, and even broken pieces of the universe. There are also many alien life forms here. You must know that the evolution cycle and elimination cycle of Hell life are much faster than that of the human world. An intelligent species may only need a few hundred years to form a preliminary civilization, but these civilizations are often unstable. This is the limitation of Hell. Many intelligent species that have reached preliminary civilization will soon be destroyed. It is not without reason that Master Rune chose this place as his place of practice. At the same time, because the space here is unstable, it is just suitable for studying the most difficult time and space magic among all magic. Master Rune was seriously injured in a time and space shuttle, and finally returned here dying, leaving his will, and then died soon. Lee Ji always felt that Bart was a bit evasive, and Bart generously admitted this. Because he couldn't tell everything, he could only tell Baron Mordo many details. No one else could know. This was the last request of Master Rune. So after thinking about it, Lan decided to take Bart away, but for safety. Lan still added a temporary soul mark to Bart. Master Lan himself was very resistant to summoning monsters, especially using souls as contracts. Moreover, Bart had signed a lifelong soul contract with Master Rune. Bart's loyalty only belonged to Greenwich, and the mages of the Kamartaki faction had no right to enjoy all the rights. So she only chose a temporary contract to ensure Bart's loyalty during this period. When she returned to Greenwich, Bart would return. Do the mages believe that the ether particles definitely exist? Tony tilted his head and glanced at Lan. What about the evidence? You should know that what we are talking about now is very serious. Without evidence and repeated arguments, such inferences cannot be made casually. If you like, you are welcome to come to my laboratory after we return to Earth this time. Hank seemed to have finished fiddling with his machine, and he took off his glasses. My laboratory has the complete readings of the last detection in the London area. It was a very accidental and miraculous detection. Okay, gentlemen. Regarding such high-end things as ether particles, when we return to Earth, we can have a chat while drinking coffee in a laboratory full of technology, okay? Lee Ji saw that Tony and Hank wanted to start an academic debate on the issue of ether particles, so he quickly interrupted. We'd better solve the problem at hand first, okay? What Lee Ji said made some sense. This place is not a place suitable for academic arguments. Well, what is the result of your inquiry into this demon? Tony raised his hand, agreeing with Lee Ji's point of view. Not a very good news. Let Bart tell it. Lee Ji shook his head in distress. indicating that the demon Bart told him what he knew about the recent news about hell. There's a war going on in hell. Bart's tone was very serious. Hell? War? Can anyone tell me what the difference is between these two words? Tony's tone was a little sarcastic, but the meaning was very clear. He was telling Bart not to be mysterious. He told him to tell everything he knew in one breath. The goat-horned demon glanced at Tony, who was wearing full armor, and there seemed to be some contempt in his eyes. Although I don't know where he got this arrogance from. The cause of the war is the invasion of another dimension. And the place where the war is most intense now is the city of the dead where you want to go. Chapter 268 Dark Space. An invasion from another dimension. Hearing what Bart said, everyone else looked at each other in bewilderment. Storm was even more confused. Another dimension outside of hell? I thought hell itself was another dimension. It's not Storm's fault, after all, she knows too little about the world. Many times, only when people know more can they realize how ignorant they are. For example, Hank just listened quietly on the side. He wanted to see what Bart would say. Hey. There was some sarcasm in Bart's laughter, and he glanced at Storm out of the corner of his eye. Okay, don't learn the habits of Greenwich wizards so well. Let's talk business. Wizard Lan asked Bart not to provoke Storm. This woman has a very hot temper. Lee Ji now understands where Bart's strange sense of superiority comes from. It sounds like he learned it from his original master. It seems that the wizards of Greenwich are used to looking at people out of the corner of their eyes. The space where the Earth is located actually has many overlaps with the space where hell is located. Bart followed Lan's instructions and began to talk about business. This is why most people's souls return to hell after death and reincarnate here. Bart said that he knew more about hell than many people. Even the mages of Kamatiki might not know as much as he did. Of course, if Johnny Blaze could completely control the spirit of revenge in his body and gain the knowledge of the spirit of revenge, then he would also know so much about hell. In fact, hell and many major living spaces in the universe overlap. This is a kind of cosmic law. This is part of the research results of my master before he died. It seems that in addition to Bart's knowledge coming from the demon himself, a considerable part of his knowledge came from the research and teachings of Master Rune. Hell is a very special place. It is the angle between the main cosmic dimension, the main space of the universe, and the broken dimension, the fragments of the universe. Bart spoke very slowly, and some words were used hesitantly. It seems that he can't remember all the research results of Master Rune. Li Ji subconsciously glanced at Lan and found that Lan was also looking at him. The two of them had a tacit understanding of their thoughts in an instant. Bart said that all of Rune's research notes were burned by him, but now Bart can't remember Rune's research results completely. Master Rune's hard work for more than 10 years in this world was burned just like that? Preserving knowledge is almost the tradition of all mages, otherwise there would not be the vast collection of books in Kamartaki. Because for mages, knowledge is power. Master Rune will definitely find a way to let Bart bring his research back to Greenwich. But it seems that Bart is a little reserved, and he didn't tell the truth. Although he is respectful to Master Lan on the surface, he is actually a little wary. Or he is wary of all the mages in Kamartaki. I don't know where this wariness comes from, and Lan is puzzled. Because after repeated confirmation, Bart does belong to Greenwich, and the contract left by Greenwich has not dissipated. Lan took advantage of Bart's inattention and said to Li Ji with his mouth but without making any sound. Let's talk about it when we get back. Bart didn't notice the little movements of Li Ji and Lan, and he continued to consider the sentence. Because of the special nature of hell, the space here is not very stable. Most other spaces have access to hell, but it is not easy to enter the Earth. Bart spoke slowly. Why can't we enter the Earth? Peter asked a question that everyone else wanted to know. Because the space where the Earth is located is a super stable form. The one who answered Peter's question was Lan. As a magician of Kamartaki, she was more familiar with this knowledge than Bart, and explained it more clearly. In addition, the three major temples we set up on Earth have stabilized the Earth's defense circle, making the space where the Earth is located in a semi-solidified state. Lan gestured with her hands, and a golden earth formed by magic power appeared in midair. She used magic to demonstrate roughly. In the Dark Ages, the space of the Earth was like a sieve. Any demon god could easily enter or leave. But now the continuous reinforcement of the three major temples for thousands of years has allowed us to form a hard shell in the Earth's space. A blue shell was formed on the golden earth model as a demonstration. Any existence that wants to cross the dimension and come to Earth must first tear open this solid defense. So you built the first line of defense for Earth. Tony circled around the golden Earth model, amazed. Yes, you can understand it this way. Lan nodded. Has anyone or a demon tried to tear open this defense recently? Hank asked with interest. Yes, and quite a few. Because for many nostalgic demons, Earth was once their paradise. There are even demons who were born on Earth and then left Earth. Lan nodded. So what's the result? Either they can't tear open the defense and get their heads broken and bloody, or they go to war with us. Master Ancient One has driven away many such demons over the years, and finally signed a non-aggression treaty. Lan told the current situation on Earth. But I believe there are still demons who are obsessed with Earth. Remember the guy I saw in the Hand and Society building last time? Tony talked about the Hand and Society without any warning. Li Ji's pupils suddenly dilated, and he felt his back begin to sweat. Harry Osborn is standing here now, and his father Norman Osborn was killed by the magician of Kamartaki. Although a big reason is that Norman was possessed by the power of the demon, he had no choice but to do so. But Li Ji didn't want Harry to know who killed Norman personally. Because you have to know that behind these magicians stands the Ancient One. If Harry really wants to find the so-called enemy who killed his father, he may not be able to bypass the Ancient One. And if he angers the Ancient One, it will not be much easier for him to kill Harry than to crush an ant. Li Ji wanted to avoid the topic that Tony was talking about in an instant. At the same time, he walked to Peter's side without making a sound and gently pulled Peter. Peter also reacted quickly. He was an eyewitness of the last incident. Yes, the demon killed by the Ancient One. He broke the defense, didn't he? Li Ji quickly interrupted what Tony wanted to say. No matter what Tony wanted to say next, Li Ji was not going to let him continue. Oh yeah, what happened to that guy later? I heard that the Ancient One dumped his body in the wilderness of the universe. By the way, why did he invade the Earth? Peter Parker also took advantage of his chatterbox and threw a series of questions to Lan. Because of the interruption of these two people, Tony almost forgot what he wanted to say just now. Lan glanced at Li Ji and the others. He always felt that these two people were weird, but he didn't say much. The demon god's name is Natanis. He is also a powerful demon god. He is at least as powerful as the Lord of Hell, and at that time he also surrendered to another more powerful master. Who? Dormammu, the Lord of Dark Space. And the Dark Space is the main force that invaded Hell this time. Chapter 269 Theory of Time and Space. Dark Space? Dormammu? What the hell is that? Tony Stark was confused. In fact, Li Ji had never heard of these things. Because when he traveled to this Marvel world, the movie about Doctor Strange had not been released at all. And he himself was not a die-hard Marvel fan. Although he had been baptized by more than a dozen movies in the Marvel Universe, he roughly knew that the Marvel Universe was diverse and had various factions. But after really coming to this world, he understood. The complexity and danger of this universe far exceeded the description in the movies of his previous life. Now if Li Ji looked back at the movies he had watched, he would probably think that the Marvel movie universe was very friendly. The bad guys were completely bad, and the good guys were naive. There was no need to be as thrilling as the world we live in now. Various strange forces and mysterious events competed to appear. Even the Earth has become more and more dangerous. The origin of Dormammu has been untraceable. Lamb said slowly. But some more reliable information shows that he was once a human. Or an intelligent creature similar to humans. And he was also a wizard. Hearing this, Li Ji's eyes widened a little. Huh. He was also a powerful wizard. Why are these mysterious guys always more troublesome than the scientific ones? Li Ji complained in his heart. It is said that he discovered the dark space during his experiment of time travel, and he is the earliest known intelligent creature to discover the dark space. He has outstanding wisdom and rich magical knowledge. He discovered the mystery of the dark space. This space is not suitable for life because it is full of terrible unknown cosmic energy. Dormammu named this energy, dark energy. Because this energy obeys the law of darkness, quiet and silent, but deadly. For wizards, dark energy is full of temptation. Because this energy is extremely powerful, once you start to absorb this energy, you will quickly become powerful. But this energy is also very dangerous. It will make people crazy. Finally, lose yourself in the power. For some reason, Li Ji heard a sad tone in Lan's words. In order to obtain this dark energy, the legend says that Dormammu gave up his body. He integrated himself into the dark space. He became the master of the dark space. In a way, Dormammu is the dark space. And the dark space is Dormammu. But according to the legend, he still created a body for himself that can move. It is very similar to Johnny's current image. Lamb said this, and everyone turned their eyes to Johnny Blaze in Ghost Rider form. The image of an undead wizard holding a skull staff and covered in flames began to appear in everyone's mind. He transformed himself into the dark space, which gave him extremely powerful strength. At the same time, the dark energy began to erode his mind. It's hard to say whether it was the dark energy that changed Dormammu, or whether Dormammu himself had a strong desire for greed, but it was just because the dark energy began to magnify. He began to attack other dimensions in a big way. In fact, in the stories that have been circulated, the dark space has conquered a considerable number of broken and tiny cosmic dimensions. These dimensions have become the nutrients of the dark space, feeding back more energy to Dormammu, making him stronger. Wait, I have a question. Would Dormammu make a lot of enemies for himself by doing this? Lee Ji raised a very critical question. If he has been conquering other dimensions, wouldn't the gods or demons in those dimensions resist? They would at least form a basic alliance. Lee Ji didn't quite understand how a guy who likes to die everywhere could survive. This is the Marvel Universe, and there are powerful people everywhere. Even if Dormammu is very powerful, can he be strong enough to suppress the entire universe? It's impossible. Why didn't anyone unite to uproot this guy who obviously poses a huge threat? It's very difficult. Lan sighed and shook his head. Because Dormammu has completely merged with the dark space. To destroy him is to destroy the entire dark space dimension. Wait, didn't you say that the dark space conquered other dimensions? So what do you mean by conquering, not destroying? Lee Ji was a little confused. Of course not, as the literal meaning, it is just conquering. Because the universe dimension itself has unity. Powerful gods or outstanding scientists can find a way to tear a universe dimension and make it into pieces. But they can't completely destroy it. Because the universe is composed of countless tiny chains. The breakage of any chain may cause the collapse of a link, resulting in unpredictable consequences. No one dares to take this risk. Lee Ji heard what Lan said, and suddenly remembered his test in the Kamartaki library. He witnessed the universe being born from the fire, and then constantly expanding, and the huge chain of time that spanned the two poles of the universe and supported the entire universe. So Lee Ji added a little more trust in what Lan said. Wow, so Dormammu will never die. Peter Parker whistled exaggeratedly. It's not that simple. The cosmic dimension has a lifespan, and the length of life is often determined by the size of the space. Lan talked about this aspect of knowledge, and Tony and Hank understood it better, because this aspect is very close to some arguments of modern science. If the space is infinite, the time is infinite. If a space is limited, then the time it has is limited. And this is what you call the lifespan, right? Tony took over Lan's words and explained this principle in a more simple way. Time is like the oxygen in a fish tank. How much oxygen can there be in the fish tank depends on how much water it can hold. Is that what you mean? Lan nodded after hearing what Tony said. That's probably what I mean. The duration of the dark space has been set at the beginning. The birth and death of each dimension is part of the reincarnation of the universe. The old dimension dies at a certain time, and the new dimension will be born at the corresponding time. If we use the fish tank as an analogy, the dark space is like using an oxygen pump to infuse the oxygen allocated by other spaces into its own space. But this is not without cost. The more space Dormammu conquers, the more reincarnations the dark space will have to bear, because the universe is balanced. In short, he's extending his life at all costs. Lee Ji suddenly had an absurd and ridiculous idea. Yes, Dormammu is trying his best to extend his life. The combination with the dark space gave him powerful power, but also deprived him of most of his humanity. If there is anything that continues to exist, it is endless greed and fear of extinction. Lan nodded and determined that Lee Ji was right. Although I don't know how long a cosmic dimension can last, I believe that the length of time it can exist is also very terrifying. Even the long lifespans that those gods say they have cannot be compared with it. Lee Ji said with a sigh. It seems that the old saying is true, the longer people live, the more they fear death. Lee Ji sneered at this. So based on what you said before and after, Dormammu invaded Hell hoping to use Hell as a springboard. Continue to conquer other spaces and find ways to extend his life. Li Ji adjusted his mentality and asked. Most likely. Lam said this, but a worried look appeared on her face. Because she knew that Dormammu and the Supreme Sorcerer Ancient One did not get along. The two had fought many times in more than 100 years, and it was not an exaggeration to say that they had a life and death feud. She was now thinking about whether to send someone back to Kamartaki first to tell Ancient One what was happening now. At the same time, Bart could be sent back to Greenwich together. Now the City of the Dead has become a gathering place for the Lords of Hell. They are discussing ways to deal with Dormammu. They don't want any piece of Hell's space to be swallowed by darkness. The demon Bart saw that Lan had finished talking about those things and began to talk about the current situation facing Hell. There are a large number of demons gathered in the City of the Dead, and there are several Hell Lords in the city. Going to the City of the Dead now is simply seeking death. Bart was not optimistic about Li Ji and others going to the City of the Dead. In fact, we don't have to go to the City of the Dead. Li Ji knew that plans could not keep up with changes, and he had no way to intervene in the current situation facing Hell. These things should be left to those gods and powerful figures like the Ancient One. Ordinary people like me should just listen to these cosmic anecdotes. If you really want to intervene in these things, it would be too presumptuous. What we need to do now is to adjust the previous plan according to the current situation. What we have to do is always to find Doom and reach an agreement with him. This is also our most important goal. Of course, Li Ji has another goal, which is to kill Jin and complete the task. Of course, this cannot be said. So we'd better find a way to stop Doom now. So are there any places we must pass on the way to the City of the Dead? Li Ji said as he looked at Johnny Blaze and Devil Bart. Chapter 270, Kamibo Samu, Jehovah, and Zatannas. Walking in the wasteland of Hell, Shin Biangshan felt that he was a super unlucky guy. He couldn't think of many people who could be as unlucky as him. Like many ghost riders. Most people who become ghost riders do not do so out of their own will. It is a curse that runs in the family bloodline. The power of the spirit of revenge is not something that anyone can bear. Although the spirit of revenge was born in Hell, it has been transformed by the Father Jehovah. Only after the transformation of the Father can the power of the spirit of revenge be used by humans. The most orthodox Ghost Rider was first used to deal with the most powerful Lord of Hell at that time, Zatannas. It was a war between Jehovah, the Lord of Heaven, and Zatannas, the Lord of Hell. The cause of the war can no longer be verified. After all, it happened thousands of years ago. Gods also have a lifespan limit. Most gods can only live about 5,000 Earth years. Of course, some extremely powerful beings may be able to live longer. For example, Jehovah lived a long time, longer than most gods. Even older than Odin. In a way, an old man who refuses to die is a thief. Jehovah is already a genuine old thief. It is hard to say why Jehovah can live so long. Maybe every god has his own secret? If we ignore the secret of Jehovah's lifespan, let's go back to the war between heaven and hell. There is no doubt that Jehovah is the winner. He is still living happily in his cloud kingdom. He rules his heavenly kingdom, as well as the 12 archangels and many ordinary angels under his command. Oh. Of course, we have to exclude the former archangel who defected and is now one of the lords of hell, Lucifer. For thousands of years, except for this bad thing, Jehovah has lived a happy life. His opponent in the past was worse. Zatannas was defeated and his territory was divided up by other lords of hell. There is no such thing as a common enemy in hell. Jehovah did not declare war on hell, but only on Zatannas himself. This left Zatannas without help and was almost destroyed. Maybe you noticed the word almost. Yes, almost. But this does not mean that he is really dead. Every powerful demon or god has his own tricks to save his life. Of course, sometimes these tricks will work, but sometimes they will not. Zatannas's tricks to save his life worked. He did not die completely, or he retained a trace of soul fire, and did not fall into the cycle of the eternal city of the universe like those fallen gods. He became another form of existence, an existence that no one could imagine, including Jehovah. He turned into a spirit of revenge, and also found a host whose bloodline has been passed down from generation to generation, the Blazer family. As for the contract between Mephitis and Johnny Blazer, there are actually more complicated relationships. Even Johnny mentioned that Lucifer had sent someone to find him when he first met Li Ji. And the relationship here is too complicated. It is even related to the secret of a great main god. Well, the topic is a bit far away. Let's pull the perspective back to Kamibshong. As the heir of the Kamib family, Kamib Shuang is the most suitable person to be a container in this generation. Please forgive me for using the word container. Perhaps for a wise life, using this adjective is a slander and taint. But the orthodox Ghost Rider itself is an indelible curse. Please remember that it is a curse, not the so-called favor of God. As mentioned above, the inheritance of Ghost Rider and the spirit of vengeance is not something that ordinary humans can bear. If you have ever been influenced by mysterious doctrines such as destiny, you must understand what this means. Anyone who takes on the responsibility of being a container of Ghost Rider will eventually become a part of the spirit of vengeance. There has never been an exception so far. Kamib did not take the initiative to ask to be a Ghost Rider. It can be said that all this was a carefully disguised deception. It was the night when he had just completed his adulthood. An angel with gorgeous feather wings came to him and asked him to take on this responsibility in the name of the gods. Fight for the gods. Doesn't it sound exciting? Especially when you see a real angel. Any boy who has ever had a middle school dream will agree happily. But where does this world have so much warmth like in mythological novels? This terrible world does not have those chosen ones in the stories. There are only obligations and balance. The universe is balanced and reincarnated. Jehovah destroyed Satanus, so he has to bear part of Satanus' obligations. As Loki once said to Li Ji, good gods and demons are all part of the universe, and everything is for balance. How much goodwill there is in this world, so there must be as much malice as there is. No increase or decrease, no dirt or cleanliness. No matter how great Jehovah, the Father in the story, is, he cannot circumvent the most basic rules of this universe. If we use an Eastern metaphysical saying, this is called barren cause and effect. So those Ghost Riders who were originally used to deal with Satanus have now become props to maintain balance. Every descendant of the Ghost Rider is a container. All they have to do is to open their souls with a sincere heart and let the spirit of revenge merge with themselves. Then they will transform into Ghost Riders to help Jehovah maintain the balance that he almost broke. What these Ghost Riders need to do is what Satanus originally needed to do. Hooking souls, throwing them into hell, and judging and condemning souls. These are not good jobs. Those who associate with demons for a long time will also fall into hell. Every time the soul of others is tortured, it is also a kind of torture and burden for the Ghost Rider himself. In this process, humanity will gradually be lost. If a person loses the candidate in the soul, can we still call him a human being? This question is worth thinking about. Kamib has discovered these problems in recent years. He found that as a warrior of the Father, his life was not as good as he imagined. Every time he associates with demons, he feels like entering an ice cellar. That feeling is terrible, and he began to question his faith in the Father. He began to doubt whether what he did was the important task of saving the world in his dream. He wanted to find the answer. According to the memory of the spirit of vengeance in his body, he wanted to find the place where the spirit of vengeance was originally born, hell, and find the truth of everything. In the ancient memory, he knew a certain entrance to hell. But the memory of the spirit of vengeance is huge and messy. Maybe the spirit of vengeance forgot to remind him. The Ghost Rider in the East has a natural enemy, that is the Beast of the Hand and the Society. After failing to enter the castle of the Hand and the Society and go to hell through the underground cave, Kamib was controlled by the Beast. The Beast has strange magic, which seems to be specifically aimed at the Ghost Rider. This made Kamib unable to resist. It also made him a prisoner of the Hand and the Society. He was forced to work for the Hand and the Society at certain times, such as the last battle with Li Ji and others in New York. However, in the last battle, he just worked but did not work hard. Because he had no good feelings for the Hand and the Society. Just like slaves would not have good feelings for slave owners. However, in the last battle of the Hand and the Society, the Beast was killed, which was beyond Kamib expectations. In fact, since the death of the Beast, Kamib felt that the magic power that trapped him was getting smaller and smaller. Maybe it's time for him to break free from all this? Of course, something happened before he was ready to break free, which temporarily gave up the idea of breaking free. Because the new leader of the Hand and the Society is ready to explore hell. This is good news for Kamib. Maybe everything he wants to know will be found in this action. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271, Waiting for the Rabbit. Most of the hell is desolate. There are no plants or animals, only black land and equally black mountains. Because of the strange geographical shape, these mountains look like the back of some monster. They stand abruptly and hideously above the earth. The sky of hell. Maybe it shouldn't be called the sky. If you have to use an accurate adjective to describe it, it is just a space above your head. Because from this space above, you can't see the vast starry sky you imagine, or the azure sky caused by the refraction of the starlight penetrating the atmosphere. The space above Li Ji and others is just a thick layer of fog, although the distance is very far. But the blood-red fog still makes this place feel very depressing. And those blood-red fogs seem to have life, often forming all kinds of strange images above, most of which are grotesque and strange, and sometimes reveal a terrifying atmosphere. I don't know if other parts of hell are the same, or only this part is like this. Because according to Bart and Johnny, the space where hell is actually located is actually quite large. It is precisely because of the hugeness of this space that it can accommodate so many hell lords of different factions and systems. None of these big demons are easy to mess with, although as an extremely advanced life system. These demons have relatively rational restraint, instead of the bloody killing and chaos and ignorance in myths and legends. The place where Li Ji and others are now is not far from the City of the Dead. According to Bart, if Tony's Iron Legion flies at full speed, it may only take half an hour to reach the City of the Dead. This distance is really not far in a sense, although Tony's armor can fly thousands of kilometers in half an hour. But as Bart said before, the vicinity of the City of the Dead is not a good place now. A large number of hell lords are gathering there. For these powerful people, getting too close to them is a very dangerous thing. Li Ji's purpose of coming here is to block doom and find an opportunity to kill Jin Bing, instead of running foolishly to a group of hell lords to make trouble. In fact, even in this nearly 1,000-kilometer periphery, some strange monsters can be seen occasionally. For example, some monsters have bat wings, are red all over, and have flames burning on their ankles. Unlike the goat horn demons seen before, these monsters do not seem to be particularly intelligent. Those are demon bats. Although they look like humanoids, they are not intelligent creatures. They are magical creatures created by magic. Bart pointed to a demon bat that was hovering in the sky in the distance and conducting reconnaissance. The place where Li Ji and others were located was the slope of a hillside. Because of the angle, it seemed that the demon bat did not find them. This is the outermost periphery. The reconnaissance and the realm are very loose, but the further you go in, the more patrols and soldiers you will find. Bart said as he watched the demon bats fly away from this area. At least for a while, there won't be another scout patrolling here. I heard that the Lords of Hell have formed a very loose alliance recently. Before repelling Dormammu, maybe they will give up attacking each other. Of course, all this is uncertain. Is this the place you said you must pass through? Li Ji glanced at the towering mountains on both sides. The black mountains were like sharp spikes that directly pierced through the red clouds and mist, penetrating deeper into the clouds and mist. The continuous mountains are like a huge arm, dividing the two sides of the mountains into two naturally different worlds. The first time Li Ji saw a river in hell was in the valley on the other side of the mountains. It was a rushing river. It was shining with the colorful colors of colorful glass. Although there was no sunlight, it was still shining. This was very eye-catching on this black land. River of Souls. Johnny saw the river in the distance and couldn't help but speak. It wasn't that Johnny understood the origin of this river, but the memory retained by the vengeful spirit Zatanus in his body told Johnny what this thing was. What is the origin of this river? Li Ji was a little curious, because since the beginning of human enlightenment, the development of all civilizations and the continuation of life are inseparable from rivers. It can be said that only where water veins gather can there be brilliant civilization or life. The River of Souls. Legend has it that it is the place where souls are born in reincarnation. If all the dead do not have the kingdom of God that they believe in and accept, the final destination of the dead is the City of the Dead. From there, they embark on a journey and enter the long River of Souls. A new round of reincarnation begins. The spirit of vengeance Zatanus showed his knowledge. No one knows where the River of Souls starts to flow, and no one knows where it ends. But everyone knows that this is the destination of most of the dead. The River of Souls flows through most dimensional spaces, and there are traces of it in many places in the universe. And the starting point of the River of Souls in hell is the City of the Dead. Johnny Blaze finished this sentence almost like a dream, mumbling, and even he himself did not notice what he was saying. And Li Ji was also a little surprised. Although as a spirit of vengeance born in hell, he might know hell very well. But is this very secret knowledge really just a common sense of hell? Or is it that the spirit of revenge in Johnny is actually extraordinary? Because of the influence of his previous life, Li Ji always felt that Johnny in Ghost Rider was the protagonist of this series. Since he is the protagonist, Johnny must be extraordinary. Although judging from his previous performance in the fight with Johnny, he is not as strong as a Ghost Rider should be. But it is precisely because of this unusual, or unorthodox Ghost Rider that Li Ji feels that Johnny is a little special. If you want to go to the city of the dead, you must find the river of souls. This is common sense for creatures in hell. My master has disguised himself and went to the city of the dead many times, of course, when the guards were lax and there was no war in hell. The words of the demon Bart interrupted Li Ji's thoughts. The city of the dead is very special. If you don't follow the river of souls, you will never find the location of the city of the dead. And this is the end of the river of souls in hell. Only by tracing back from here can you successfully reach the city of the dead. Then let's stay here and wait for doom to come. Chapter 272 Cloaking Device. Waiting for doom here is a risky thing, because although the Hell Scout bats don't hover here all the time, after all, this is not the front line against Dormammu. They will come to scout every once in a while, which will still cause trouble for everyone. But Beast Hank has his own solution. Li Ji has actually seen this solution before. That is the black technology from the X-Men, the Blackbird fighter. Are you saying that you are going to dismantle one of my mechas? Tony looked at Hank. His face was not very good, and he pursed his lips. Yes, if we want to make something that can help us disguise, we do need some parts. Hank emphasized the word parts. After all, we don't want to attract the attention of the big guys in the city of the dead. Li Ji agreed with Hank's words. So you want to make a cloaking device similar to the Blackbird? Li Ji quickly thought of the Blackbird fighter he had seen in the mutant school. The fighter was designed to be very sci-fi and avant-garde. Of course, the most eye-catching thing is not the sci-fi appearance of the aircraft, but the stealth function of the aircraft. This kind of invisibility is not the radar invisibility used on US fighter jets, or the invisibility of electronic detection methods. It is a kind of invisibility that is just like the literal meaning, which means that you are really invisible. And as long as the weapon nest of the mecha is not open to enter the hot weapon combat mode, or the temperature is too high during flight, this kind of invisibility will not be discovered under normal circumstances. Hank briefly explained the use of this invisibility mode. We can use this invisibility device to set up a relatively safe place for ourselves. As long as those demons do not come into contact with our entities face to face, they will not be able to find us. And most of the superpowers or spiritual exploration methods will be relatively deceived. Hank took out his black-framed glasses and put them on. When talking about science, he is a very rigorous scholar. Cool, that Blackbird is much cooler than it looks. Li Ji praised, and Peter Parker put his arm around Harry's shoulder and whistled. Li Ji believed the functions that Hank said, because when it comes to the diversity of superpowers, there is probably no place in the world that can compare to Charles Xavier's School for the Gifted. In that school, Hank can repeatedly summon various mutants to test his inventions in various ways. To some extent, this is much more useful than using scientific instruments. Okay, then I agree. Jarvis will release the self-protection and self-destruction device of a mecha. Let Dr. Hank dismantle it to get the parts. Tony thought about it and agreed to Hank's proposal. When Hank was dismantling a Hell Destroyer mecha, Iron Fist suddenly came up and said to Tony, "Tony, don't you think this kind of invisibility is very similar to some equipment we have seen?" "What?" Tony didn't react for a moment. "Did you forget? The S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft carrier, the giant in the sky, has a stealth function." Iron Fist reminded Tony. When Iron Fist said this, not only Tony remembered this, but also Li Ji. After more than 10 years, Li Ji almost forgot that the S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft carrier in the movie also has a stealth function, which is so similar to the Blackbird fighter. Oh, now that you mention it, I remember. It's not easy to make such a huge aircraft carrier that can accommodate thousands of people on duty and carry more than 200 fighter jets invisible. Tony held his chin and nodded. Speaking of which, the Blackbird is a bit similar to the aircraft carrier of S.H.I.E.L.D. Li Ji said uncertainly. Is it the same technology? Hank paused for a moment and glanced at Li Ji and Tony. But he didn't say anything, just pushed his glasses and continued to work. I haven't seen any particularly outstanding scientists in S.H.I.E.L.D., although they have a large research team. But the level Tony shook his palm downwards, indicating that it was very bad. Did S.H.I.E.L.D. invade and steal your design? Or did you sell your patent to S.H.I.E.L.D.? Hank didn't say anything, but Storm, who was helping, frowned and said, "Don't compare the shuffled and outdated stuff in S.H.I.E.L.D. with what the Doctor is doing now." Wow. Lee Ji knew that Storm had a straightforward temper since the first time they met, just like she was directly devaluing S.H.I.E.L.D. Peter Parker patted Harry on the shoulder and said in a half-joking tone, "Did you hear that? She said that the most special violent agency in this country is a group of outdated antiques. Iron Fist and Luke Cage can now be considered employees of S.H.I.E.L.D. After all, as a member of the Avengers, they can get a good income from S.H.I.E.L.D. every month. Although I respect Dr. Hank very much, I don't think S.H.I.E.L.D. is so worthless. Luke Cage is also a straightforward man." Hey. Storm smiled. The things that S.H.I.E.L.D. uses today are still the designs that Dr. Hank designed more than 30 years ago, and there has been no improvement over the years. After saying that, she shook her head, saying that S.H.I.E.L.D. is really bad. "So, did the stealth design of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s aircraft carrier really come from you, Doctor?" Lee Ji asked with some curiosity. That was the earliest and first generation of design ideas. Hank did not deny this. "But I was not smart enough at that time, and my design ability and thinking were limited. So the initial design had many flaws. That generation of stealth has many flaws that have not been made up, so it is not a very reliable device. If it is targeted, it is actually very easy to be captured, and it is not as strong as it looks." Hank's words reminded Lee Ji of the fight with Captain Rogers in the S.H.I.E.L.D. prison in New York that night. "I still remember vaguely hearing that the S.H.I.E.L.D. aircraft carrier was attacked over New York." But Lee Ji was more curious about another point. "Although I am a little too curious, Doctor, I still want to ask, why did your design fall into the hands of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Hank took out various small tools from his tool bag, and kept disassembling his hands and feet there, while explaining to Lee Ji, "By the way, because the earliest X-Men were organized by SHIELD. Of course, they were not called SHIELD at that time. Instead, they were called a National Strategic Science Department, and Charles and I were the first mutants to be recruited." Chapter 273, The Earliest Plan X. Hank's words were a little beyond Lee Ji's expectations. Because according to his originally not very rich memory of the Marvel Universe, he had always thought that the X-Men were created by Professor Charles and Hank because of the influence of the movies in his previous life. It can be said that it is a group of superheroes with a very strong private nature. Whether it is technology, funding sources or personnel establishment, it can be said that in the movie, it was completely driven by these two people. In this world, although Charles still set up a mutant school as in the movie and held the idea of integrating mutants into the life circle of normal people, the X-Men that Lee Ji was familiar with did not form. Even because of Lee Ji's persuasion and Charles's consideration. After the mutants went out of control, they simply formed an organization similar to the X-Men, but they did not raise the banner of the X-Men. Lee Ji once felt a little surprised why Charles was quite resistant to establishing a mutant hero team. Now Lee Ji probably guessed that perhaps all this is related to what Hank said. The X-Men, which was led by the National Strategic Science Department, the predecessor of SHIELD, has a certain relationship. This made Lee Ji have a certain subversion of the origin of the X-Men. "So you mean that mutants have cooperated with the government? And formed the X-Men?" This is a piece of history that Lee Ji has never known, and he is not the only one who does not know. In fact, the people present, except for Hank, may not know this story. Needless to say, the amnesiac Wolverine, Storm and Cyclops joined after the X-Men were reduced and Charles formed the School for Mutant Geniuses, so although they know a little bit, they don't know it in detail. Yes, it was an attempt by the government. Hank's eyes have a kind of reminiscence, and his nostalgia can be seen from his blue-haired beast face. "Can you tell me about it? I really want to know this story." Since the government has had close cooperation with the mutants and has taken the lead in organizing the mutant X-Men, then why is the situation of mutants like this now? Lee Ji is really curious about this piece of history. If the government really had a close relationship with mutants, then why is it that the government is now indifferent to the lives of mutants? Taking a laissez-faire attitude, or even a boycott? You know, most of the responses to mutants on TV are bad. Hank did not stop his work when he heard Lee Ji's words, nor did he look up at him. The scene was so quiet that only the clanging sound of Hank using tools to dismantle the mecha could be heard. If it's inconvenient, I apologize. Luigi felt that the scene was a bit awkward, so he had to choose to speak first. Oh, no. That's not what I meant. Hank said as if he suddenly woke up. I was just a little obsessed with the memories of the past, and I was a little distracted. You know, people always like to reminisce about the past when they get older. This is a common problem for the elderly. I am no exception. Hank said that Luigi did not need to apologize. It's not a secret, but some politicians are worried that their recruitment of mutants will become a stain on their political careers, so many people choose to keep silent on many occasions. Pretend that nothing has happened. Hank said while thinking, while disassembling the mecha. He had already disassembled the outer armor of the Hell Destroyer and began to remove the core components inside, which were the parts he said he needed. If you have worked for the National Strategic Science Department, then I believe you have also seen my father. Tony saw his mecha being disassembled quickly by Hank, and his skills were so skillful that it seemed as if he was the maker of these mechas. Yes, Howard Stark, he is really a genius. And he is also an elegant gentleman. He has taught me a lot of things. Hank nodded. Actually, Howard was one of the first to propose recruiting mutants to form the X-Men. Hank glanced at Tony and said, "The old man never mentioned these things to me." Tony muttered, but the voice was too low for anyone to hear. So, Dr. Hank, let's talk about the same question again. I'm really curious about this period of history. Luigi saw that Hank was not unwilling to talk about the past, so he asked again. Let me think about it, let me think about it. Hank temporarily stopped the work in his hands and began to think about the dusty memories in his mind. In fact, the history of mutants is very long, and mutants have played a very important role in human history. In the age of ignorance and chaos, powerful mutants were worshipped as gods. The beginning of Hank's story was a bit far-fetched, but he quickly skipped these things that were too far away and started to talk about the main topic. Because a small number of mutants are powerful, and before Charles and I classified and studied mutants in detail, there was actually no systematic classification of mutants. But this does not prevent some people from using the power of mutants, especially in wartime. Hank glanced at Logan, who was standing next to him with his hands on his waist. For example, Logan, although he has temporarily lost his memory. But according to Captain Rogers and his account, Logan at least participated in the entire World War II process, and maybe he participated in more wars before. After all, he is invincible. Hearing Hank's words, Logan showed a claw, raised his eyebrows and smiled. Of course, mutants like Logan who actively join the battlefield and join Captain Rogers' team are a minority after all. You know, in fact, most mutants are like ordinary people, they hate and fear war. After all, except for Logan, who is invincible, no mutant can guarantee that he will not die. But sometimes there will always be times when you can't help yourself. Hank sighed as he spoke, as if thinking of something sad. In the most tragic years of the war, the Axis powers had already begun to lose. In order to reverse the decline of the war, those crazy guys could do anything. Hank said, he used a little more force when dismantling a capacitor and tore off a string of wires next to it. Studying the serum of super soldiers? Making copies of Captain Steve Rogers in batches. What Luigi said was what the Axis powers did back then, but it seemed to have failed. No, Captain America's success was accidental and is an example that cannot be replicated. What they are doing is even more crazy. They are studying the Weapon X program. Chapter 274 Purpose of the Plan. Wait. Are you talking about the Weapon X project? Luigi almost couldn't control his voice. He tried to calm his tone, but the sound was still a little strange. Yes, are you surprised by something, or do you know more? Hank's eyes swept over Luigi, his eyes were sharp, and he felt like he was seen through. Luigi found out that he had lost his composure, because what Hank said overturned his impression again and again. He used to think that the Weapon X project was only created by General Stryker, the big villain in the X-Men. And now Hank is telling Luigi that the development of the Weapon X project actually had a prototype long before General Stryker, and even had results. Oh, because Frank mentioned it once when the mutants were out of control. Seeing Hank staring at him, fortunately Luigi reacted quickly and immediately thought of a way to respond. At that time, we discussed internally whether the out-of-control incident was man-made or accidental. Frank once looked for Stryker, the military general who hated mutants. He had investigated similar plan documents. Yes, I almost forgot. Because the information was top secret, I didn't have much time to investigate at that time. So I just took a rough look at the name. Frank also helped Li Ji at the right time and helped him divert the problem. I only mentioned it once, so what exactly is the X-weapon plan? Frank recalled his memory of looking through the collected information at that time. There was no detailed content about the X-plan, so he was also a little curious. X-plan, mutant weaponization. Hank put down his doubts after listening to Li Ji and Frank's explanation. After all, the relationship between Nightcrawler and the mutant school is still quite good. In essence, Charles and Hank are still willing to believe Li Ji. Hank's X-plan seems to be not much different from what Li Ji remembers. The biggest difference is that Stryker studied X-plan to destroy mutants, while the study of X-plan during World War II was to win the war. So they are going to use mutants as weapons. Li Ji thought of the key point here, which is actually easy to guess. That's about it. Hank roughly agreed with Li Ji's statement, but Li Ji's statement was not perfect enough. But I once told you, Nightcrawler, that the degree of evolution perfection among mutants is different. Not all awakened X genes can be perfectly integrated. Most mutants actually have very little ability. Li Ji remembered what Hank had said about the different levels of mutants from Alpha to Epsilon. Not all mutants are suitable for fighting, and not all mutant abilities are helpful for life. When the war enters that stage, what they need is the power to make the final decision. Hank's words reminded Li Ji and others of the artifact from Asgard under the Arctic ice cap. It seems that the government at that time did not find a way to use it. After all, Tony studied it for a long time and couldn't even think of a good way to lift it. So they made a bigger change, right? Li Ji took on the responsibility of a good audience and properly guided Hank to continue the topic. Hank had already removed most of the parts he needed and had begun the manufacturing phase of the cloaking device. Yes, what they want to do is not simply to let mutants join the war, but to obtain the mutants' abilities. They want to extract the mutants' abilities and create a large number of mutant soldiers under their control. Hank took the multi-purpose wrench handed over by Storm and pried open a closed metal drum with force. As I said before, the X gene is hidden in almost everyone's body, but some are recessive and some are dominant. Back then, they extracted mutant genes on a large scale and tried to implant the abilities they wanted into ordinary people's bodies. However, due to the conditions at the time, many experiments ended in failure. But even so, they once created many mutant soldiers. Although the number was not enough to fight on the front battlefield, this group of mutant soldiers once caused great trouble to the Allied powers in the underground battlefield. Just like the trouble Captain Rogers brought to the Axis powers. Hank's hands still did not stop. He had installed a simple transmission device. Even after the war, because this group of special soldiers were not completely arrested, they still caused great trouble to countries around the world. Because the soldiers who received these special transformations were all die-hard fanatics of the Third Reich. Hank sighed, not knowing what he was sighing about. In order to fight against them and solve the special forces on the secret front, Charles, I and another group of companions were recruited to form the original X-Men. Fighting against mutant villains, this is the original intention of the formation of the X-Men. But this force was eventually disbanded because of a special military and political crisis, and even a tragic war broke out on the underground front. In the end, the two leaders of the team parted ways. Li Ji guessed that the two leaders Hank was talking about were Professor Charles and the other was most likely Magneto. But was the crisis Hank was talking about still the Cuban Missile Crisis in the original story? Or did the Cuban Missile Crisis in this world undergo more twists and turns? Hank did not stop his story because of Li Ji's thinking. As for the X-weapon plan you mentioned about Stryker, it was the materials confiscated by the military after the defeat of the Japanese in the war, and the scientists continued to test it. This is something I didn't expect. Hank glanced at Logan. Originally, Professor Charles and I speculated that the adamantium in Logan's body was modified by the human body. Later, because of Captain Rogers, we know that Logan once participated in World War II, so we once speculated that Logan might have been captured by the Japanese at the end of the war and then modified. Logan clenched his fist, making a few crisp sounds. But now it seems that Logan may have been specially modified after being captured by this military general named Stryker. After listening to Hank's words, Logan muttered Stryker's name in a low voice. He has lost his memory now, and his memories of many years before are blank. Logan really wants to find out who made him like this. If he can find the culprit, he promises to tear the other party into pieces. Chapter 275, Magneto's childhood. There is another question, Doctor. How did you know about the establishment of Plan X by the Communist Party during World War II? I don't think the government would be so kind to disclose all this to you. Tony raised another new question. Even if the Alliance has this information, it should be quite confidential. With all due respect, I'm afraid that neither you nor other mutants were qualified to browse these files at that time. Yes, you are right. In this respect, you have inherited your father Howard's genes. You are always very cautious and distrustful of various issues. Hank's words made Tony a little unhappy. In his life, the thing he disliked most was that others compared him with his father. I can tell you why I know all this. Hank didn't pay special attention to Tony's stinky face, but continued to talk on his own. Maybe there are many things that have been weighing on his heart for many years. Many things have never been said, and it is very uncomfortable to be weighed on his heart. Once this gap is loosened today, Beast Hank talked about it in a torrent of words. After all, it is history that has already happened, and it doesn't matter if it is said now. As you said, I really can't get the relevant information from the government. But I once had a close friend. We had the same goal back then, working hard to promote communication between mutants and ordinary people. Hank began to answer Tony's question. When he was young, he was one of the witnesses of Project X. If you work in SHIELD and have a high enough level, you may have heard of his name, Max Eisenhardt. Hank reported a name. Luigi guessed that this should be Magneto's name. To be honest, he really couldn't remember what Magneto's name was, but he remembered his cool nickname. Max? Jarvis, do you have this person's information stored in your database? Tony didn't have any impression of this name. Max Eisenhardt. He used to be known as Eric Lansher. S.H.I.E.L.D. once passed on his information. He's S.H.I.E.L.D.'s #1 wanted criminal. Nicknamed Magneto, he has not been caught yet. It is rumored that he founded a mutant terrorist organization called the Brotherhood of Mutants. Jarvis did not disappoint Tony by reporting Magneto's information. Wow. Your old friend is really amazing. Tony sighed. Why do you mention World of Warcraft at this time? Are you also a believer in Blizzard Entertainment? Peter Parker teased. It's just an exclamatory tone. I don't play such childish games. Tony waved his hand. I'm really sorry. We all like such childish games. Storm raised her eyebrows at Tony. So you play it too? Peter was a little excited to meet someone like him. Yes, all the teachers in the academy play it except Professor Charles. Storm nodded at Peter. Dr. Hank has also specially designed a super powerful computer host, specially laid network cables, and even modified the priority of our school's IP address to log into the server. This is to ensure that we don't get stuck during group battles and dungeons. Wow, cool. Luigi couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. He always thought that the X-Men in the mutant school were very serious. Well, but it seems that this is not the topic now. Ahem. Hank seemed a little embarrassed, so he coughed and interrupted Storm. Actually, Charles plays too, but he only plays in his office and never in the public entertainment room. Hank's casual words shocked Luigi and others. Professor Charles, who has always been known for his seriousness, actually plays online games. Well, everyone needs entertainment, so it's understandable. Okay, let's not talk about this. Hank brought the topic back. Marx was a Jew, and the Warriors had a huge impact on him. His family was arrested by the Nazi government in 1939. He spent very difficult years in the concentration camp, which had a strong impact on his life. His family members all died in the concentration camps, and what was even more cruel was that Marx, who was still a teenager at the time, was assigned to the execution squad. That was the executioner who was specifically responsible for executing Jews who did not abide by the rules of the concentration camps. He once said that he had killed many of his compatriots with his own hands. Hank stopped here and was not going to say more about Magneto's tragic childhood. But when he was in the concentration camp, he had an energy burst. It was very, very powerful. As one of the few alpha-level mutants in the world, even the mutant power that had just erupted was still too powerful to be ignored. The government noticed him. After that, there was a series of inhumane tortures and experiments. It can be said that the first time humans made a detailed observation of mutants, and the concept of mutants was born in Marx's miserable experiments in the concentration camp. Before Marx, there had never been a government organization to conduct large-scale and systematic research on the composition of mutants. Marx was a participant in the whole process, so he provided us with a lot of historical data, even more than the US government authorities confiscated. In Hank's hand, a diffusion device had begun to take shape. After the war, we once gathered together. Charles was a great man, and Marx was also a great man. Even if the ideas were different, Marx's greatness could not be erased. Hearing Hank's words, Luigi mobilized the memory in his mind. In his memory, Magneto was a very extreme villain, seemingly advocating mutant supremacy. It felt very similar to some extreme racists in the United States who advocated white supremacy, or some extreme racists who advocated the theory of black innocence. But it is said that the Brotherhood of Mutants is a very extreme organization, although its reputation is not very prominent. And it is not without reason that Magneto is listed as a first-level wanted criminal. Luigi raised his own question. Yes, he is a bit extreme. If you have lost all your relatives, finally found a lover, and had 2 children. After losing these important relatives again, I think you will understand why Max went to such an extreme. Hank did not refute Luigi's point of view, but just said that everything has a cause and an effect. And what makes Max most disappointed is that the person who made him lose his wife and children is the human government that he once tried to trust. Even though Max did a lot for ordinary people after joining the X-Men, he still did not get the trust of the US government. Because he is a mutant, especially with has an unclear relationship. This also led Max to another extreme in the end. He believed that only by building a world of pure mutants can mutants live well. When Hank finished speaking, the work in his hands also entered the final stage. He connected the arc energy furnace inside the mecha to the device in his hand, which was similar to an umbrella handle. The invisible position immediately started working, and in a short moment, Luigi and others seemed to have disappeared, completely blending into this land. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.